start up.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 288th episode of the... I gotta stop doing that. The 288th. It's the 288th episode.
That works.
Yeah,
What
I did.
did you
But
say?
before I said the 288th. I added
Oh,
the
did you?
TH. Yeah,
Double
yeah.
TH? That's
I
risky.
do that sometimes. Yeah.
Good thing you don't have a lisp. That would be savage.
Man, I'm the man without fear, Travis Snail.
And the devil of Hell's Kitchen. I was going to say Rutland, but I think I'm just going to go with
The
devil of Hell's
devil's
Kitchen.
I don't know if we're the devil of
Dylan-
Rutland.
The immortal devil of Hell's private. I'm trying to combine all four of them. That's kind of hard.
Unpenetrable.
What is Punisher?
Punisher.
What is Punisher's like? Does he have a tagline?
No, people usually just call him crazy or freak.
Yeah.
Like he's just the screamer.
The screamer.
We're never gonna get any of those again, unfortunately.
I know. We
so.
got our last Punisher scream a few months ago.
Mhm. So if you haven't guessed by the title of this podcast or our nicknames, this is kind of it, unfortunately, because not for the podcast, I should say, kind of it for the Marvel Netflix, because as of right now, we've heard no plans for it to be, brought back, and they can't really talk about that because there's contracts, but we've reviewed almost every season, just Daredevil season 2 we don't have a review for, or season 1, but we've watched them all. We've done a bunch of big binges. I would recommend for the newest one, we just did Jessica Jones last week, or a few days ago actually, right? Yeah, a few days ago.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Just a couple days ago.
Just all melded.
We just finished another cast that was like
Yeah.
hour and a half, 2 hours long. So
So
little bit
yeah,
scrambled.
so we are now that it's officially as of right now ended, which I would ask, if what is the chances? Well, I want to give a percentage of 2 years from now is when they could actually do something, and they could do whatever they want. They could reboot it. They could, drop it on Hulu, which because I don't think this is a Disney Plus thing. If any of these characters.
So how does it work? Like, could Marvel do a show with a new cast of Daredevil like tomorrow if they want to, or do they have to wait to do that as well?
I believe,
or if it's just like same actors. And
believe they have to wait on the characters.
Okay. Just on the characters.
Or on the character. I don't know. I think it's fuzzy because maybe they're allowed to make a Daredevil in the movie, but you can't make a Daredevil with Charlie Cox.
Yeah.
To be safe, let's say it's that. You can't do this iteration of these characters.
The chance of seeing these people again, I would say, is incredibly low. I'm going to give it like a 1% chance.
Oh!
Which sucks, right? It sucks a lot.
I was hoping at least for over 5.
That's... no. I'm pretty low. I'm pretty low on it, which, it is too bad. But, at the same time, Ultimate Alliance is coming out and we get to fucking play as all of them. Well, minus one of them. So at least that's cool.
Fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think? Are you above 5%? Or are you right on that 5%?
I just don't know.
There is a chance, right?
The reason I'll go 10%, which is still super low, is I'm kind of not hoping, but I think with the Fox buying that maybe Feige and company have other characters they want to tackle on the big screen first, because I just don't see... I'm trying to think, who are the most grounded people in the MCU right now? Spidey, because he's in New York, kind of, right? You got Hawkeye.
I don't know. Spidey, in Endgame, he went into space, so I would say not so much.
So that's kind of my point, is I feel we're past the point of even the Captain America Winter Soldier, it's just him as an army guy, right? So I feel like we're kind of past the point of a Daredevil.
Yeah. I think
Jessica
even if
Jones.
you look at a character like Black Widow, who power-wise is a lot more... not more nerfed than other Avengers, I guess you could say. The thing is, she has so many resources at her disposal. So the characters in these shows never have any resources. So they're working with very, very little other than their grit and their ability to not give up. Whereas, Black Widow, she can't fly, but she could get a plane. A really high-tech plane.
Yeah, just like that.
With invis on it and just fly through and take out Kingpin.
She knows about gods. Yeah. She's no problem with Bullseye or anything like that. I'll actually jump to 25% because I just, now I'm talking to myself, it's still not a passing grade.
I'll go up to 5 now. Okay, I like this.
Because I just feel like if they look at these characters, you got Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and even Punisher, which to me is a shame because I would like to see them interact with MCU characters, but I just don't see, especially they're talking about they're going to go a bit more cosmic this time. We've had Thanos, we had Endgame, we had the Snap. I just feel maybe these characters are too small. They've missed the bandwagon. I feel like Black Widow, because she was in those early stages, can be there, but I think if you were bringing Black Widow now, that might not be the case. You know, that like just a full-on agent that might not
that's
interest
true. Like,
people.
who is the most recent character we added? Fucking Captain Marvel, who's just like crazy strong.
Oh yeah, she's there, Superman. So there's that, and the other reason is because they also announced that on Agents of Shield they introduced Ghost Rider, and he's getting his own show.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that shows, because I've had this theory, Taylor hates it, that I don't think Kevin Feige is a big Ghost Rider fan, and I think him kind of saying, yeah, you can have Ghost Rider, to me shows that there's a chance that they could get huge brownie points in 2 years if they announce, hey, these shows in some way are coming back. I don't think they'd come back the exact way.
No, I think we could. I could actually see them bringing Kristen Ritter or Charlie Cox.
Yeah,
like those two. Maybe even Luke Cage. I always forget the actor's name.
Not Bernthal? I could see Bernthal because he's a bigger star.
But what I was going to say is I don't think they'd bring Iron Fist, the immortal Iron Fist.
So my theory is
Finn Jones. I don't think they'd bring him in.
I think they would, because I think if they brought them back, they would do a Heroes for Hire show. They wouldn't do separate Luke Cage and Iron Fist.
But I think they could do that, but I don't think they'd bring Finn Jones in as Iron Fist.
Really? So they recast?
Yeah, because one, acting-wise in the first season, like, he got better for sure, but in the first season, honestly, like, there's a lot of points where, as an actor, he really dropped the ball.
Yeah.
And I think there was just a lot of, like, people getting mad with, like, it not being an Asian actor in the first place. And I think that's something that, like, Marvel is, like, conscious about right now. Like, they finally have their first, like, I guess they just did Captain Marvel, female-led. They're doing another one with Black Widow.
They had Shang-Chi.
They did Black Panther, Shang-Chi. So I think they would want that to be, like, a more authentic character.
What if it's Colleen, then? Some ties to that show. You could bring in Danny every once in a while. I just think it's weird if that's such a slight, which they may not care, but if they brought back everybody and they're like, no, Finn Jones, we're not bringing you back. But that's why I think even no matter what it'd be,
what do they do it though? Do they have a show on Disney Plus, do you think?
No, I think they'd put them on Hulu as well, because they own the majority of Hulu now. So yeah, so that's why, to me, the second they announced,
that's a good point.
Yeah, the second they announced
I'll bump my thing
Rider,
up to 7% chance.
Nice. The second they announced Ghost Rider, I thought, okay, this might be a realm for darker characters that they don't have plans for.
Right. Like, are they coming to the MCU? No, I don't think so.
No.
That's
we've missed that bridge. If they didn't
pop up in that scene where Doctor Strange is teleporting everyone in, they're not.
Because we talked about it for years, like, just show Flash them. That was the scene. That was the scene to show, there's some other random heroes to help us out fight Thanos' army. If they didn't pop them in that, there's no chance. So, so I just want to touch upon that, because we'll likely not talk about this ever again until if they announce it or Daredevil's recast and
we want to honor these shows, because even though there's some crap in here, there's a lot of really good stuff. A lot of great characters, so...
And I'm disappointed, too, in that sort of sense, because I would have loved... We did the animated series, and one of my favorite episodes is Daredevil as Spider-Man's lawyer, and I would have loved to see Charlie Cox.
Oh, man, he's so good. And, like, the costume they had in that show is so good.
I'll tell you this, what if you could get the show to come back with the same iteration new season, or you can get Daredevil in the MCU and some of those characters, but they're different actors, what do you take? Feige says, I'm waking up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, I can't decide, what do you do?
It's either them going to Hulu or those characters are new actors?
Yeah, so it's the same shows that get revived, they're coming back, or those characters in the MCU, they can be with...
Here's the thing. To be fair, I mean, Charlie Cox is amazing, but I think someone else could do that role just as good, if not better, honestly. I think
Ben Affleck.
Off the top of my head, Kristen Ritter is a hard one. I think she's so good, and I don't know the source material, but I think just like look-wise, like the fact that she has that natural just like raven hair is like she fits that role perfectly. But I think the other ones like could be. I think I would go with that option actually. I think I would.
If I had to pick one, I would still. I think
maybe if it was like all the same people doing these shows, but I feel like in 2 years, like a lot of them might have moved on and might not want to come back. Like I don't know if I'd want a Daredevil season 4 if like Elektra or Kingpin don't like ever come back, or if like Bernthal's just not doing Punisher anymore. I think the fact that they're all doing it and it's like a world within this show, it's all part of the MCU it's technically is part of the MCU, but it was all part of that TV universe. Like that is a big part of it, and why we'd always get so excited is like who's gonna pop up, or when like Iron Fist is just in one episode of Luke Cage. So it's kind of fun to see those crossovers. So if you didn't get those, I think it would take away from it. So, and I don't know if that would happen in 2 years down the line. I don't know if everyone would come back.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the only one I want to give the exempt to is not I want to, but I just feel like they could with Bernthal and just ignore it just because he's actually like a movie star in real life.
That's true.
But
true.
Yeah, if I had to choose in my perfect world, I'd say I'd want one season left of every show and then do the reboot. Just because, especially Iron Fist and Luke Cage, which we'll talk about.
Or just they ended on more Defenders or something.
Yeah, to close up, because some of those seasons ended on cliffhangers, which sucks.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So that's
big time.
Yeah, so yeah, that was fun. I wanted to talk about that because, who knows when it'll ever come. We may never talk about it again. So
it's true. We probably won't talk about it for a while.
What we're going to do today is we're going to do 3 ranking series. We're going to do top 10 characters. So that's kind of your hero side
across
characters.
All shows.
Yeah, across all shows. Top 10 villains across all shows. And then we're going to rank every single season.
All 13 of them.
Yes. So it's going to be interesting. So I'm going to let you have the floor for characters. You go. So you're going to go 10. I'll go 10, et cetera, et cetera.
I think we do some honorable mentions first.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I only have 2, actually.
Okay.
I guess I have 3.
I just switched some stuff around right before we hit record.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah,
I'll say it this way. It's actually kind of similar when we did our top 10 albums show to our Patreon. You can go check that out. But like my essentially 8 through 13 is like just cutthroat. Like there's
solid.
Yeah, there's like just little points or like just my mood in a given day would change like how they would rank. So there's a couple people that are getting cut out here that I feel bad about, but it's got to happen. My first honorable mention is for Turk, who was a character who never got any sort of character development. He was just a bad guy. He wasn't like a full-on villain. He was more like a lighthearted bad guy. But he was...
He's a goon.
He was a recurring character. He was like in these 13 seasons, he probably showed up in at least 8 or 9 of them, I want to say. Like just even...
Yeah,
most
you're right.
other than like
after
Daredevil
Defenders,
season 1, it was just like for quick little... like moments here or there, but
after
he was
Defender
still,
season, everyone.
We always thought he's kind of like your Stanley cameo of the Netflix shows. He's really fun, just like the little things he's doing, selling drugs, selling weapons. Like he was just such a fun character, and that actor, I just liked him. So,
and I always shout, it's so strange when I watched Daredevil season 3. I showed this on the review, but when we first met Turk, he was like sex trafficking.
Yeah,
women.
He was like really bad, and then he became a lot more Disneyfied.
Yeah, they made him really lighthearted. So when I went back, I was like, "What the hell?" And then he had his come to Jesus moment. He's a better guy.
Yeah. I should have prefaced this. So I've seen all of these shows only once, and I started watching around Daredevil season 2. So I watched Daredevil season 1 and 2 and Jessica Jones, like the first season, all kind of together. And then since then, I've been watching them all in release. So I'm pretty foggy on like those earlier shows. It's been a long time since I've seen some of them. So my rankings definitely, like, maybe there's a little bit bias towards like recent seasons. And just, I mean, naturally, I can't remember everything that happens in all these seasons. So I might mess something up and say like that was in a season 2 of a show that was in a season 1. But I'm doing my best here. I'm not going to rewatch 13 seasons. That's a lot of hours. So
it's free content we're giving you right now.
Yeah, exactly. Another shout out, another honorable mention for Claire. She didn't make it in my top 10.
Oh, shit. I completely forgot.
You forgot about Claire?
I did. I think it's...
You know what I did? I made a list of like all the big characters first. That way, when I was making my top 10, I had them all there in my mind for reference. Claire, for me, the thing that sucks about her is that she was such a big character in the earlier seasons, like of pretty much all the shows, but then she really fell off for the last few. Not that she was a bad actor or the writing was bad. It's just that character's importance really wasn't there. And I think the nail in the coffin for why she's not in my top 10 for me is because in Defenders, like she was like such an integral character potentially to like bring them all together, but then she was pretty lackluster in that particular season. And it makes sense. It was only 8 episodes, so there's like you really got to focus on the main 4. I get it, but it's too bad because I love her. I think she's great and she's a really fun character, but she wasn't quite good enough to make it in my top 10 because of like the later seasons.
And in Luke Cage season 2, she goes pretty quick. Because they set him up to be, that's his girlfriend, and then she's gone because they have a fight. We never see her again.
I forgot about that. And
that's kind of what I forgot about.
I shouldn't forget about her, right? Like, she should have been, she could have been more interesting. And she's such a great actress.
She was the Nick Fury. She brought them all together. She knew them. So, she's a great actress. Yeah, I would throw her my honorable mention, too, because I completely forgot. So,
and then my last one is... for the boy that we were just talking about, Danny Rand. He was in my top 10 earlier today, but I changed it just now because, it's like what I mentioned earlier. Like in that first season, his acting was, oh man, there was some really brutal scenes.
Character not great either.
Yeah, exactly. And I really liked that show. I liked it more than most people who were just shitting on it. Obviously, we talked about that in the review. And I still had a lot of fun with him. Honestly, he could have been in the top 10 if he got the costume. Honestly, if he had the costume, just like that image in my head might have been enough. Yeah. Might have been enough to put him in my top 10. But unfortunately, it's like season 1 kind of pulls me down. And even though he got a lot better in season 2 and in Defenders, I thought he was quite good as well. And even just that quick cameo in Luke Cage, it's fun. And I really like that character, but he wasn't quite on that level to me to make it in the top 10 because of, I guess, just the inconsistency of the character.
Again, I forgot to plug this, but check out July. We're pretty much almost confirmed July 19th. We're going to be doing our Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3/24. Well, okay, it's a mouthful, but Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 / 4-year anniversary 24-hour stream. The reason I bring that up is, you guys are probably fans of Marvel. Check out. We're going to have lots of fun. We're going to be playing through it. And also, Iron Fist has that cool suit. We just played Marvel Alliance 2, which he has some fun looking suits, but I hate that body armor he has. This is the full on, his chest's out, the tattoo, his big bandana. Yeah, it looks so sick. So July 19th, come watch.
I mean, what do they got? Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Daredevil, Elektra, Jones is an NPC, so they got a full roster of characters, and we'll definitely do a Defenders line up for an hour or two on that. Playthrough.
So check that out. It's gonna be lots of fun. Links will come in the week close to that.
A couple other honorable mentions that I don't want to say too much on, but just mention them is Amy, who is the kind of younger girl in Punisher season 2. She was really fun. Not quite enough to make it in the top 10.
That's a good one.
Vanessa, who is Kingpin's wife / girlfriend. She's great. She never really gets like the development of other characters, but she's just so good at that role.
Yeah,
a lot of fun. And then I'll shout out Misty as well from Luke Cage. She's really fun. And then Mahoney, who is just like he's more in the earlier couple seasons of Daredevil. Then he pops up. I think it's Punisher season 2. Where was it?
Yeah, it was.
Or was
he's
it
in
Luke
there
Cage
quite a
season
bit
2?
because he's butting heads with what's her
Madani.
Yeah.
So those I wanted to shout out Mahoney because he was more in the earlier seasons, but he was just like he's that cop that Daredevil kind of communicates with Daredevil, and he's just really just a really charismatic dude. I like him. He's a fun addition. It's always good to have a cop in a show like this that has personality, and he was definitely one of those. And I like that he popped up in the universe a couple of times. Yeah.
He's kind of his Jim Gordon. It starts out he doesn't know if he can trust him, and when he arrests Kingpin the very first season, he gives him to Mahoney. So it's kind of a fun little back and forth. So okay, you had some good shows because I would have definitely put Amy and Claire, so I completely forgot about those two. So I dropped the ball there.
You would have put them in your top 10, you think?
No, honorable mentions, but good ones.
Yeah, where do you think Claire wouldn't have been in top 10 for you either?
No. None of the people you shout would have been, because I think if I forgot about them, then clearly not a top 10, massive shout out to Turk. Big fan of him. Just like you said, the Stan Lee. She wouldn't have got this, but last season did some good stuff with her, and I really like her in Punisher. Karen, I'm putting there because I'm not. Okay. If you go back, Daredevil season 1,
you were originally a big hater. But
and I think they did a good job. I also think it's just because her and Berthnell had great chemistry together, and then there was a good episode. Yeah, it was. I didn't love the placing of it in season 3, but we did get that Karen episode, and that helped a lot. So I think just near the end of the seasons of the show she was in, it felt she was in it more naturally because she was actually a reporter and doing stuff.
Yeah, she was like very much she had agency in these shows. Yeah. She affected other characters' plots.
Where the first few seasons felt like she is Matt's girlfriend, she's our assistant. It felt like they had to sometimes weave her into storylines, which they do a lot in these shows. So, Micro, he didn't make the top 10. I really liked him. He literally was the 10th spot. I'll reveal who it was. I honestly could have flipped a coin. I just thought, who did I enjoy a bit more? So, but Micro was the closest to the top 10 list. I really enjoyed him, and I think it would have helped if he came back for season 2. But unfortunately, I just forgot about that character. And him and Frank had a really good chemistry. They had that weird stuff going on with his wife, and it was a fun dynamic. So. And then my last one, Danny Rand as well. Same thing. I was like, can I really not include one of the main characters, a Defender, not in the top 10? But I just thought, and I love Iron Fist. He's one of my favorite Marvel characters. That's one where I
felt obligated, but it's really, I think there's characters I like more.
I was like that too, but like, nah, you know what? He's not one of my favorites. I liked him, and he was getting better. I think maybe with one more season could even help better. But I got some Iron Fist characters popping there, but he's not one of them.
He's not one of them. No.
Number 10. I'm going to start because I want to talk about who bumped Micro. Was Ben Urich, actually, from season 1. He was the original. Yeah. It's not Daily Bugle because of Spider-Man, but something they named it something else. I really liked him. I liked his relationship with Karen because that kind of inspires her to become in the newspaper and a journalist. I liked his connection with with Daredevil. And I thought that when Kingpin did kill him, you really felt that. One, it helped because you had stakes of, wow, we lost a main character. And I was expecting that because in the comics, he's around a lot. And I just really liked that character. He had really good soul, which, Matt has soul, but he's a criminal. Foggy's kind of running around. Karen was in flux that season. So I thought he was like a good guiding light. I really liked that once he realized there was a rat in the Bugle or wherever, I can't remember the actual name for it, but he was just felt so disrespected. And he had that thing with his wife where he's just trying to she was sick and he's just trying to pay for her care. I really liked him. It was a character, like, it's a weird thing to describe, but just careable, like I just looked at him and he cared about other people. He really led the charge to expose Fisk, so I really liked him. So he got that 10 slot just over Micro.
That's a good one. He was one of those characters I forgot about just based on time. It's been a long time since I've watched the first season of Daredevil, so he kind of slipped my mind.
And Kingpin just strangles him to death. What a terrible way to go from that big man. Big man.
Speaking of big men, my number 10 slot. Oh, we should also say that our top 10 characters list, we left villains out because we're also doing the top 10 villains, so they would definitely have an impact on this list, but we just put them elsewhere.
I think it's more fun because I would have had at least 4 more villains in here that would have bumped off, like Ben Urich.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'd rather shout out Ben than
or else those characters wouldn't get mentioned. My number 10, as I mentioned, another big guy, Luke Cage. For me, he's down here at number 10. He has a lot of great moments throughout these 2 seasons and Defenders, and even in Jessica Jones, and I think that's he definitely is dynamic in that sense. Like in the first season of Jessica Jones, like a really good way to introduce that character into the world, but also it's just fun how he's not really a villain, but like the way Kilgrave uses him as just like a machine to destroy Jessica is like really fun, different type of character. And then even though that's like not really much development for him there, he also does have that relationship with her in that season. But then he goes off and has his own show, and while the first season is definitely
a mixed bag.
It's brought down because of his brother, which is a fantastic villain. You're gonna hear a lot about him later on, but
are you?
Yeah, so much. Can't wait to talk about him. I think that definitely maybe takes down some of the emotion for me, but I overall I know it's gonna sound weird. I'm gonna insult him a little bit, even though he's in my top 10. But I just found him a bit bland sometimes. He was a little bit emotionless through honestly a decent chunk of some of his show, but he also has a lot of great moments, and like I mentioned, is pretty dynamic, and he is quite a badass as well. So I had a lot of fun with the character, and in the first season, I really was much lower on him, and at the time, he wouldn't have been in my top 10, but seeing Defenders, seeing his season 2, season 2 in particular for him in his show, of course, he just got so much better for me, so much higher on the list. And as we touched on in the Jessica Jones season 3 review just a few days ago, it was really nice to see that send off for him. I mean, I guess it's not really a send off, but it was nice to just see him one last time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he really look wise, just demeanor, he is that character. He is Luke Cage. So
and he has that charisma,
Christmas.
He's really good.
He is great. So definitely made it in my top 10 for me, where Mr. Danny Rand did not.
Yeah, I'll have more to say on him later. Number 9, Misty Knight. She made my top 10.
Fair enough.
Just because I think she might be at times. We're talking about Luke Cage, but sometimes she's just the coolest character in the Marvel Netflix. She's just cool as ice. Just her little quips. I think also just helped that I've complained so many times that the cop characters in these shows most times just suck, or they just feel forced. Like Madonna, who I end up liking, but same thing. Season 1 was another cop, and even Mahoney, who I like, but this was the only one that really stuck with me. Obviously, she had a journey once she lost her arm. I loved, and I'll talk about her later. I really liked all her stuff that Colleen Wing, the Daughters of Dragons, stuff like that. So she's just in there because she's a cool character, and I think in season 2, Luke Cage, she did have less to do, unfortunately, but she was still a joy to watch, and I still really enjoyed watching her, and we'll talk about that later, but I'm really bummed we didn't get a season 3 of Luke Cage trying to be a good crime boss and her being the head cop there's going to be obviously a collision there, almost kind of like Jones Trish style, right? And I'm really bummed we won't see that, because I think you could have got her to have much more meat, where in season 2 she was definitely on the back burner, but still really like Misty Knight. So
fair enough. I think my number 9 is probably the most controversial one on the list. Also a character you just kind of threw some shade at, but it's going to Madani.
I'm not. I can agree after season 2.
I will admit there is this one is probably the most like recency bias of my list, just because like a Ben Urich, I just forgot about him.
Yeah.
Whereas he might have been like on par with her, but I actually remember her more than him. So yeah, it's like the season 1 I feel like I was kind of neutral on her, or just like, yeah, she was all right, nothing too special. But yeah, season 2 of Punisher is when she really shines. I don't really remember exactly like what her storyline is. I guess there's like some stuff with like Jigsaw. She's kind of like the middleman there.
Well, she wants to kill him, and because she doesn't believe him that he just has the memory loss. Remember, and then that kind of gets her in trouble. And
I think she was like a character that could have just been like in the background or just like that boring cop, but she ended up being like so visceral and kind of going against the law, doing things her own way,
helping Frank a lot.
And like she had her own story really developed, and she became such a huge character in that season. And I think I was really let down by the villains in season 2 in particular of Punisher. So I think I needed more than just Bernthal to really like solidify and love that show, especially because I was missing Micro, and she really filled that void for me. I ended up really, really liking that character. So to me, number 9 goes to Madani.
Fair enough, and just a good-looking woman.
She's very spicy.
Yeah. Number 8 for me is Colleen Wing. I really, really liked her. You go back in Iron Fist season 1. She really actually carried lots of the good action scenes in that show. And then season 2 was really good and she actually got some really good showcases in Defenders. She was actually with the Defenders, helped kicking ass at one point, because obviously she's very skilled. And I like that she kind of had, it's almost similar to Jones and Trish, that she was helping Danny, but kind of was the better Danny as far as she could control the Iron Fist. She could felt better. She would always be willing him, like, you got to do stuff, you got to make a difference. I really liked her. I think it's just and I think she actually had good chemistry with Finn Jones, even though I don't think they were like a knockout of the park couple. I think everything she did was good, and I felt like anytime she was on screen, I was engaged. I really liked the ending of season 1 when she thought that, I can't remember what the organization was. It just the Hand? I thought it was maybe the Hand under a disguise, right?
Yeah, I think it was.
Hand. But either way, I like that she had.
It was like a division of the Hand that didn't know all the bad shit that was going on.
Colleen, I almost forgot about what's his name, Bakudo. But I did like that. It was like this cult mentality of her whole life. These people took her in and saved her, and she thought, no, Danny, these people can't be bad. But then slowly realizing, oh, these people have done this and this. So she had some good arcs. She had some good action scenes. And I really liked her. And again, I would have loved to have seen a season 3 of her actually having the Iron Fist.
Yeah,
but
she was a character that grew on me a lot. I remember not being a big fan of her in season 1, but yeah, she really turned around in season 2. And as you mentioned, like she had a really big role in Defenders, which I mean was more than I was expecting, I guess.
Yeah.
My number 8 is going to go to Karen Page. I always liked this character from the beginning of Daredevil. I mean, you make good points that she was maybe like didn't have too much to do in Daredevil, but they kind of gave her a ton of screen time anyway, like her and Foggy. But I just really liked those two characters around Daredevil. I think they really added to his character and made it really fun. And then she just became like such a strong character throughout the shows, and I mean all the Daredevil seasons, and then even becoming a character like really relevant to Punisher, and like seeing him in a more humanizing way was really interesting, because we didn't really get that from many other characters throughout the Punisher show. So she was fun bumping around between those two different shows, and I just had a lot of fun watching that character do her stuff and become like the Ben Urich stuff like really affected that character and changed her kind of arc, or like her trajectory in like these shows, and it was in a really effective way. I think it was a good emotional tie for like everyone in that show, I guess like Daredevil and her in particular, but it really changed everything for her, and then it was really fun to see her go in a different direction. Yeah. So for a side character, I think she had a pretty dynamic story and really grew as a character. Yeah. No, she did big time. Dylan talked about this man earlier, but lucky number 7, Luke Cage. For me, it just comes down to charisma. He did some really good emotional scenes well when it needed to be. I think the reason why he's not higher, I was going to say is when Dylan was talking about, I thought I'd say is, I think the problem was there was always interesting stuff happening around him, but he was never the most interesting character in anything. Was Luke Cage, it was definitely Cottonmouth, and then after that, it was just nothing was interesting, because actually what happened was he got shot, and then he was like on the mend for a few episodes. Oh yeah, fuck that. And we just had Diamondback, and then in season 2, Shades and Mariah were easily the more compelling thing, and Defenders and Misty as well. Yeah, Misty and Defenders as well. He was there, but it felt like kind of Matt's season again, because Elektra was the villain and you had Stick around, so it felt like there was good stuff happening around him, and I really liked
in season 1. We'll talk about in the show rankings how they tackled race, and he did a great job with that. So really good. I really liked him a lot. I thought he kind of was a perfect casting. Again, shame we didn't see more of it. And like I said, I think sometimes the reason he's just not higher is I think they didn't always give him the most interesting stuff to do, but he did a good job, and I always liked Luke Cage on screen.
It's too bad because like where they were setting him up for in season 3 was potentially really, really interesting.
I think that would have been his most interesting season yet. And
and it would have been something different for his character too. My number 7 is we're going back to Punisher on this one. I'm going with Micro. Kind of the key supporting character in season 1. To be honest, I don't think I could tell you too many reasons or like storylines that he does, but I just loved seeing the dynamic between those two. It's such a fun start from like almost like a hostage situation at first, but then it just turned to like this friendship that always had these weird layers going on of them holding stuff back from each other, and just like this hostility, but like this brotherhood. So much fun. And I was super disappointed that he kind of got shafted in season 2. Obviously, it was nice that he was like Madani really stepped up to cover for that, but yeah, he was a like probably one of my favorite side characters out of all these shows, and it's too bad that he was only a one and done kind of guy.
Yeah, it's a shame. Yeah,
he could have been. There was so many chances. I was waiting Punisher season 2 the whole time for him to pop up, just because I was a little let down by the villains. So, it's too bad that he was just kind of in one season then gone. But for any of the like one season characters, I think he's probably highest on my list. So, yeah, I think he was fantastic. Yeah.
Number 6. I don't know. I changed this on the fly. It might be controversial, but I just had to. I had to go with my heart. Number 6 is Jessica Jones.
Ooh.
I
like it.
Big fan. This is not a shot against her. These next 6, because the Luke Cage one, to me, even then I could see, okay, I'm not like hurt that he's not my top 5. This one does hurt me because I think Kristen Witter, if I was going performances, she might even be in the top 5, but I think she did a perfect job. I love Jessica Jones. I think it's honestly because season 2 really sucked, and there was development there for her, but it just really brought her down. And then in season 3, she didn't have much to do until the very last few episodes, and I still even had a problem with some of those. So I think this just based purely on the way Ritter plays the character, and it's very much, we've talked about this many times, like Hugh Jackman or Ryan Reynolds. I could watch Kristen Ritter being Jessica Jones all day. Even though Jessica Jones in season 3 is a little underwhelming, it has nothing to do with her. She's great at the barb, she's great at the drinking, the alcoholic, the the man whoring around. Like she's just nailed down that character. And I can watch her all the time. She had great charisma in the worst way, but with Kilgrave, and they had some awesome scenes. Even Defenders, I'm mad her and Matt never got together, but we got to have some fun scenes there. She's she was a great character. If this was just season 1, it'd probably be a little bit higher, but I think she was dwindling a little bit in other seasons, but she was phenomenal talent-wise, and it does hurt me to not put her in the top 5. But I made a switch today, so I'll try to justify it. I don't think anyone will buy it.
No, maybe tomorrow you would switch her back.
Oh, I think it would be. I would be. It's very much like my 10th pick. It's very back and forth. So number 6, Jessica Jones.
Fair enough. Number 6 for me is we're going to Daredevil now. I'm talking about Elektra as my number 6. Yeah, once again, this character I haven't really seen in a while. I guess Defenders is the last time I saw her, but I think the reason she's so high is because of that Daredevil
season 2
where she pops. Yeah, her and Punisher, right? She is such a fantastic. Like, she is so good in that role, but I'm convinced that like she could be so many different types of like these like villain, like I guess superhero or super assassin kind of character. I feel like she could pull off so many different ones. I don't really know too much about like the backstory of Elektra from like the comics or something, so I don't know if she just fits so well there or if she was just so good.
Does that mean you have her somewhere in a potential fan cast coming up?
Her name's been thrown around.
I will say, I got a cheap plug in the next few months. Next week will be the Spider-Man fan cast. We're going to cast a bunch of characters, and a few weeks after that will be Batman. It's the same way as our Fox X-Men draft or fantasy draft. There'll be roles, and we're going to cast them, so look out for that. Those are always fun casts, and you guys enjoy them because they always do well. So
we know you guys like the comic book superhero stuff, so we're bringing it to you. Elektra, badass fighting, just the emotion, how much she like fucks with Matt like all the time is so good. I love their dynamic, and I really want to go back and watch those like early Daredevil seasons again because I haven't seen them in so long. But yeah, I just remember like anytime she was on screen, I was just like totally glued to it, and I wanted to see what she was going to do next because she was unpredictable, and the way she like messed with him and things were like going well, but then she would just pop up and ruin it all. It was super fun.
But
and,
she still
and
really
then she had
cared
like this
for
weird
him.
like supernatural stuff too with like the hand.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then like just being badass. So I always liked her. I think maybe the thing that sucks is that that moment in Defenders, like that final fight scene as we talked about back in the review, is just like such a low budget set, which really sucks because that's like their send off together when they're like holding each other as the building falls on them. So that kind of sucks. But other than that, I love that character. Just totally captivating.
I might be talking about her soon. Getting in the top 5, Ward Meacham. He's in the top 5. That's why Jessica got the bump, because I just love Ward Meacham. He is just one of my favorite mess fuck up characters in the world. The guy who plays him, I will be following forever because I want to see what else he does. I hope he pops up in something we like. I'm just a fan. I loved his story. And it's funny because if you go back to the Iron Fist review, I was not a fan of, not a fan of him, but when the show first started, I thought he was going to be generic. I thought the dialogue was really kind of lame duck and cheesy, and I thought the actor was doing all right. And I couldn't stand him for the first few episodes. And then I started liking him more. And then when I rewatched it, just such a wild journey, man. He lied about his dad being alive for decades. He kills his own dad. His dad comes back. And then the second season, he's a recovering addict. He's getting this girl pregnant. He's then helping Danny in these missions. And I'm so mad. Out of all the seasons I won the most, other than Daredevil, I'd say, is Iron Fist season 3 of him and Danny just traveling the world trying to find out more about the Iron Fist. But he's just... I think he's honestly maybe the most relatable character in the MNUC,
He's
the
more
MNCU.
He's more grounded. Yeah,
exactly. And it's just we all have that person who's always screwing up, or we've been there where it's just like you're making the wrong choices. But then you also have this good relationship. Who I hate this character. I think she is the worst character in Marvel Netflix easily. But with Joy from his side, you can see he cares about his sister. He's trying to do best for her, even if she doesn't believe him or see the way that he's trying to achieve this goal. Just a great character all around. You can see his struggle, and that's why I love him. Season 1, he does do some good things, but he's mostly just a piece of crap guy until the very end, and it's all very just self-motivated stuff. But you can see in Season 2, he's still making mistakes. He's still a flawed character, but he's trying to change his ways, and he is a better person for that. And I just remember that last season, Season 2, it just felt like the Evolution Ward. He's at that bar, he's smooth-talking some guy about the Iron Fist, and man, I just want to see more of Ward. I love Ward, so that's why he got in the top 5, because it didn't feel right of not having Ward in the top 5. So love that character so much.
It's funny. Sometimes on these rankings, like we rank characters in the same spot, so we can kind of just piggyback on each other. But he's a little bit higher for me, so I can't talk about him yet. My number 5, we're in the top 5 now, is gonna be Trish. Gonna be Trish here, or Hellcat as she was most recently known.
Yeah.
This was definitely just such a journey. Like we just talked to her so recently on Jessica Jones season 3, but such a journey this character had. Like for any side character, maybe even for any character in these shows, like she has such a dynamic journey. Seeing like just her broken past and the way it's kind of split between these 3 seasons, and you're kind of always getting fed more of just like all this fucked up stuff that's happened throughout her life, and how she's bounced back and is still strong, and just like is this public figure that she's trying to keep up on top of it all, and she's trying to deal with all this weird shit that's going on with Jessica and Kilgrave. Like such a fun character, and she just reaches like some really dark depths in season 3, which is really fun to see and kind of gets me like super stoked. That was another character I thought, okay, you could do a side show with this. You could split this off, spin this off like they did with Punisher. You could turn this into a season. Like I'd love to see just her solo journey, her lead a show, because the actress was so good the whole way through. And there's just a lot of funny stuff that happens too. Like I love the Trish Talk segments, like just the filming of them, and like the music video from like her party days.
I want you cray cray. Love it. Love it.
Like she just gets to do so many different things. And I think she starts as like a pretty simple character in season 1, but it's just like such a clean, like linear way she just like develops as a character and always gets more and more interesting and really helps in. I think Jessica Jones out of all the shows is the one that always feels like, why is this 13 episodes? It kind of is dragging on, and I think without her it would be just savage pacing. So she really keeps it lively.
Yeah, I will follow up because she's my number 4. Pretty much everything you said. I won't repeat too much because we also just talked about her on the review recently. But yeah, I guess more. I'll just shout out that actress. She did a good job. That could have been a role that, and the writing is good too. But that just could have been a nothing role or just a friend role. And between the writing and her performance was great. And yeah, I ended up putting her, for me personally, above Jessica Jones because I do love Jessica Jones. But it just, I remember season 3. I was much more interested in what was going on with Trish than I was with Jones, and I thought she did a great job. I didn't love exactly where they ended her character. It's fine because there's no more shows, but even then, I'm still not the biggest fan of it because I would have loved to see a spin-off show in the future if we were still in that world. But even then, like I said, not the biggest fan of how they ended it. But yeah, just great. Like we talked about in the review and like Dylan just alluded to, she went from just the best friend TV show host to even in that season, she helps Jessica takes out Kilgrave. Then the next season, she's wanting to help out more, get powers. And you can see she's always, and even when she was taking those meds and those drugs, and you see it's always set up she's been off the hinge, but she's always meant well. So great character. And I think clearly I have her rated above Ward. It's pretty close, but for me, her or at least those two are easily the best supporting characters in any shows, which always felt I always felt engaged in their stories, whether that was the writing or the acting. So
yep. Number 4 is what we're on, yeah? Number 4 for me is going right back to Ward Meacham.
We flip-flop.
Exactly. Yeah. As Travis said, like, he started out as, like, kind of a boring character. He's like, okay, well, this is not going to be fun, like, seeing this family dynamic.
Rich white guy.
Yeah. Like, what is this? But it, like, just ramped up so quickly. Like, I don't remember what the turning point is, but there was some turning. Maybe it was when he like smashes his hand in the door.
Or when he kills his dad that first time. Because remember, he kills his dad in like episode 4 because they didn't know he can come back.
It's pretty early on, yeah. And just from that point forward, every single time he was on screen, he was my favorite thing. Like he for me like was the key of Iron Fist and what made it so interesting. And that's why I loved in season 2 why he got like so much more of a focus. I felt like, I mean, it was also shorter, more compact, so maybe that's what makes or adds that feeling.
He definitely was in the action more, which I was disappointed he wasn't in Defenders. I think he had one like just quick scene.
Yeah,
I actually think he was in Defenders.
I don't remember him at all,
which was a big bummer.
Yeah, oh my God, he was just so off the rails, just psychotic, going crazy, just lying to everyone. Always had his own agenda. Was like such a bad guy, but was also trying to do the right thing sometimes. He was just so entertaining. I fucking love Ward so much. On both the Iron Fist seasons, I just gushed the whole time at how much I love Ward, and
he's the reason I would rewatch that show.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Like I would watch like just a compilation of all his scenes. 100%. And you're right. Like I really want to see what this guy does next. Like he could play a villain. I'm sure he could play like a more charismatic like main lead or something, or just like a scummy side character. Like I feel like he's got layers, even though in this show in season 2 he kind of does have layers to him as well, right? Like you do feel sympathy for him. Like he is kind of like, it is pretty fucked up, like what's happened with him and his family and that whole situation. So, and
plus season 3 we got to see him with a baby too, which would have just been the antics galore.
Yeah, exactly. So. And that could have been like, it could have been weird or cheesy or uninteresting, but he just fucking glued me to the screen.
Oh, and especially if she would have had even the daughter would have worked, but if she would have had a boy, it would have been like those parallels to how he had a bad relationship with his dad and stuff like that. Yeah. So,
yeah, he was amazing.
Top 3.
I'm trying to picture, because obviously there's 2 people, but I'm wondering who you have that's so high.
Well, I figured yours out. I got Elektra, baby, at number 3.
Oh, right, you haven't had Elektra yet.
Yeah. Okay. I love Elektra. I could say it's a little...
I thought it was going to be like Stick or something. It's like, who have you not done? I forgot about Stick until you mentioned him a couple minutes ago. He's an honorable mention for me. He wouldn't be in my top 10, so I don't feel too bad about it. But would you have been in your top 10?
Yeah, I would have been.
Who would you bump out? Who's your 10 again?
Ben Urich. I would have easily bumped out that. It's fine.
How high
now.
would he be, do you think?
But maybe at 10 or... I'm really screwed. He might actually be above Colleen Wing or Luke Cage just because I really liked his scenes. Quick shot.
He might have been a top 10.
Yeah, he was just great just because he did care about Matt, but man, he was just such a cold bastard at times, and you hated him. But him and Matt just had this good back and forth, and when he died, you really felt it. So that's a screw-up on my part. So yeah, I would have ranked him.
That's a lot of characters, a lot of seasons.
Oh yeah, I would have ranked him just under Jones.
Okay, Elektra.
Yeah, Elektra. It might be a little bit comic book biased because she's one of my favorite characters from there, but I can always say that. and always with an example, because people will say that about the Joker with me, but then I go, oh, I don't like Jared Leto or Catwoman. Oh, I'm not. I love Anne Hathaway. Actually, I really like Anne Hathaway in Dark Knight Rises, but just because she's Catwoman, I don't go, oh, it's one of the best comic book performances ever. So just because it's one of my favorite characters, I have a little bias in wanting it to be good, but you still got to deliver on the performance. And I thought she did that. The second she's introduced to the show, she is right away just this dangerous, like playful. She's fire, and don't mean in like the like straight fire. yeah. I mean literally of it's something that's warm and fun to look at and cool, but you don't want to get too close because it might get you. And that's exactly
the raw flame.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens to Matt. Like when she's back in town that first season with him, she's flirting with him, trying to get him back on his side, but he knows that. She will just kill people in an instant. They love each other, and it's very much like a love relationship, like a Charles and Magneto, except this is like a relationship where they have different ideologies of how to handle criminals and whatnot, kind of like Punisher, but they still love each other and they can't fight that. And yes, some people might say it's cheesy, but I love them dying together in the arms and the whatever. It's like Shakespearean stuff. It sucks in Defenders for half the season. She's kind of a robot who doesn't remember stuff.
It's too bad.
So that sucks. So primarily it's almost just those last few episodes of Daredevil or Defenders and all of Daredevil. I thought they did a good job, and even then it shows that Matt has these morals and will stick to them. But when Elektra's around, he always gets compromised, even to the point where at the end of season 2, he's considering running away with her. And I think she just did a good job of portraying that, where she was dangerous, she was cunning, she was sexy, but then she was also super caring, because you would see that she did love Matt. And she portrayed that. We talked about, I won't spoil what movie, but kind of like a Tarantino movie recently, and just I was praising it for how he can get all these vibes out of a movie and one character. And that's what I thought she kind of did, where you would think that maybe she couldn't come off when she's so cold and badass, she could do the caring stuff, but she did that. And even in a way where sometimes she'll be conning Matt, you're still pulling for them to kind of get together, or for her to turn and be just full on good. So I think she just played what I want perfectly, because, we got Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner back in the day, not the greatest representation of all those characters. So for me, this is tough, where I agree with Dylan. Like we talked about Charlie Cox and MCU. I think there's other characters that can do that, but it's going to be now she's the measuring stick. I'm going to compare her. It's kind of like what we do with all Jokers now. It's like Ledger. We always go, oh, Leto. And same thing with Joaquin. It's like, oh, same thing with Batman, right? Everyone, oh, Rob Pattinson be good as blank Batman. So now for me, it is, next time I see Elektra, is it as good as her? And she's another one. I want to follow her career and see what she does. I always forget her name.
Jennifer Garner doesn't hold a torch to her.
No, I always forget her name, because she has some really different type of name.
Elodie Young,
yeah. Big fan of her now, and I can't wait to see what she does. Not big enough fan to remember her name clearly, but number 3.
I was looking at her name yesterday for a certain cast that we're preparing for, so. My number 3, as I'm sure you've... Well, actually, I guess the last 3...
I think it's
we're going to have the same final 2, of course.
Yeah,
but
will they be in the same order?
That's what I'm curious to see. For me, my number 3 is Jessica Jones. Yes, that's right. I haven't brought her up yet.
JJ.
Yeah, I think, it goes down to what I said earlier of, like, I could see, like, all these people being recast, and even though I wouldn't want them to, I think a lot of them are just perfect. But I think she, above everyone else, is just so good at that role, between the look, between just the sass, the attitude, like the badass kind of. I guess like she just doesn't give two shits, like no one's gonna mess with her. She doesn't care.
Unless your name's Kilgrave.
Yeah, unless your name's Kilgrave, in which case purple just instantly snaps something in her mind. And it is too bad, because you do bring up a good point. Like season 3 of Jessica Jones, and I brought this up on the review. Like she doesn't really change much in that show. She doesn't really develop, but she's even still, like every time she's on screen, it's good. Like the acting's really good. She's really fun to see what she's doing. Season 2 sucks that I just hate that season so much. I honestly can't remember much of what happens with her in that season, just because I've really repressed. I really repressed a lot of what happened there. But season 1 is fantastic, right? Because that's where you get Kilgrave, a fantastic villain. But her and the way it fucks with her head, and just the way they introduce like her backstory with like where she is currently, and the stuff with Luke Cage, like she just has so much to do in that season. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of fun to get introduced to her and that world. And yeah, she just fits that role so perfectly. She's so much fun, and it sucks that we don't get any more of her, even though she had 2 seasons that were kind of lackluster. It's still the fact that like that's the case, and I still just want more of her, is just a testament to how well she fit that character, and how I like every single scene of her is good. I can't think of like a cheesy or poorly acted moment she has.
The only cheesy scene I'd say is that wrestling mat scene from season 3 that we just got. That's the only one.
I feel like I attribute that to like the other person in that scene though, and not even her. Like that, I don't know. She's great.
And I will say, I didn't mention that, but I feel like she just has such a great dynamic with all the characters in her sideshows. Most people do, but they're all such different when you compare like Malcolm to Trish to Hogarth and then to whoever the villain and the love interest is. Very different the way she reacts to them all, you know.
Yeah.
So
I guess one thing I'll bring up is they were a little like coy, whether it was the budget, who knows, of like her powers. And I think I would have liked if they were a little more clear on that or showed some of it. And I mean, if they tried to show it and it looked bad and they just took it out, I get it. But we did get a couple moments where she's like throwing cars around or like flipping that fucking gazebo. Like we do get a little bit of it, but I think I would have liked to see a little bit more because I still like. Can she fly? Can she super jump?
No, she can just jump. She can jump. They said that in season 1. It's just I can jump big.
Okay, but like, I don't know. Anyway, top 2. We have the same top 2. I would imagine, unless you're gonna throw that Foggy in there.
No, Foggy's getting no honorable mentions. Yeah, I'm just wondering what you got. So this was really tough for me because I've debated this in my head many times, and almost very similar to the villain as well. With when we get to that, because I think this is a clear 1 and clear 2. So for me, it was tough, but I put John Berthnell's Punisher there at number 2. Mm-hmm. He is great. He's the same thing as Elodie Young, where you look at Danny Rand, he could easily be recast. Luke Cage, same thing. I think Mike Coulter did a good job, but not a good enough job where I think I can't see anyone else. Elektra, I kind of have that right now. Jessica Jones, I have that. Punisher, I definitely have that. And that's where maybe even with Charlie Cox, I don't know why, but it's just, we'll get into that. But with Punisher, he just is perfect casting. He is just nails that character. He brings so many dimensions to that character. I think if I were to make this list just pure acting wise, I think he would easily get it because just some of the, especially season 1, some of the trippy stuff he has, visions of his wife. And there's one scene where he's just getting beat down and he's seeing his wife and he's seeing these visions, but then he can just flip from being this tragic, so sad and sorrow-filled character to just a juggernaut of hatred and anger, and that he lets out those intense yells. And maybe this is where
those screams are just something else, man.
Yeah, they are, and this is where, and I always thought he should be Wolverine. So if they do recast Punisher, don't do it, then I still kind of hope he kind of moves over there because they're similar, like, you know, Jughead, big, like, angry characters, tragic heroes, and that scream coming out of Wolverine. I think we could use that. But John Bernthal, I think, is just one of, I won't say an underrated actor, but I think he's just a guy that's just not in enough stuff. I think everything I see him in, he is one of, if not always the best part. I've never seen, even in bad stuff, he's just one of those actors. He's never bad. If you look at even stuff we've talked about with Kristen Wiig and Jessica Jones, we go, we kind of forget some stuff she did in season 2. I never forget about what John Bernthal does. And I think he's just a presence on screen. He's the perfect Frank Castle. And I will miss this character so much. And honestly, I wish we got to see him and Spidey together, like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I wish we'd get to see him in the MCU
series. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so good. So number 2, but easily same thing. You could ask me tomorrow, and he might be number 1. It's that strong with both of them. He's so damn good. And obviously, it's a spoiler maybe who my number 1 is, but just those. I always come back to those rooftop scenes we got. It's just some of the best TV ever as far as a superhero show goes. So Punisher, number 2 for me.
He's my number 2 as well. And it's for all the reasons you just stated. Like, I've just grown to love him so much and just like everything. Like I watched Wind River recently where he has like he has a very small scene. He's in it for like 5 minutes or something. And he's almost like it could be Frank Castle, like what he does in that scene. He just fucks up some dudes. And he's so good in that. In Baby Driver, same sort of thing where he's just like a visceral, scary dude. He was like my favorite character in Walking Dead when I watched that show way back in the day.
Oh yeah, Team Shane.
Yeah, he's even in Wolf of Wall Street. It's the same, like kind of badass.
That's what I mean. But he's always in like these smaller roles in these movies. This guy needs to be in a fucking Tarantino movie.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like he shows in these 2 seasons that he can really lead. He has so many iconic scenes, like between like the rooftop scene, as you mentioned earlier, we just call him Red all the time.
Yeah, Red.
And just like I just have vivid like images in my head of like the emotional scenes where he's like kind of like rocking back and forth. The way he like moves, like just his body language, the way he moves his head and his eyes around. Like I noticed that in Wind River too. Like he's just so good at like little distinct emotional scenes, just like the little details of the acting stuff.
Very Tom Hardy like with the eyes.
Yeah,
the eye acting.
Very Tom Hardy like. But then he's also can be a fucking monster and terrifying.
Yeah.
Like he gets a hallway scene and he deserves it because he just kills
so
like fucking 30 criminals in a row. He is so good, and he like it's the reason why Madani and Micro were also my top 10. It's the reason why I gave Amy a shout out. It's like the dynamic he has with all these characters is so different, and even Karen as well. Like all of these characters, even Daredevil, who's spoiler gonna be my number one. Like the way he makes all these other characters like brings out sides of them that you don't see, and the way they all look at him differently, and such a broken guy who is just like on a fucking path to kill everything really. It's oh my god, he's such a dynamic character, even though on the surface he may just be like this badass guy with these screams. Like he's so much more than that. And definitely him and Kristen Ritter, like those are my two that like they can't be recast. Who are you gonna do? You can't
Mm-hmm.
There's no one like J.K. Simmons as Jameson. Like I don't know if I can ever picture someone doing that role again, and he's definitely in that tier for comic book stuff. I love this guy. I want to see him lead more movies. He's fucking fantastic.
I'm just disappointed when we're talking about season 2 the hallway stuff. We never got more of him and D'Onofrio's Kingpin together, because they hinted about that, and that would have been so cool to see those two, because such a different dynamic than him and Matt. But obviously I think our number one, Charlie Cox's
Mr.
Daredevil, and I think for me it's a few things of. One, it's just his show overall always had the best quality. But two, it's funny, it didn't happen in his show. You go back to the review that I love Charlie Cox in 1 and 2. I think he's Matt. He is Matt. I think it is the same thing. It is the bar. It's weird that we have him at number 1 where I could see someone else portray Daredevil, but I think it's just... I think you could maybe do different stuff with that character where Frank Castle to me is that's Frank Castle and that's Jessica Jones. Yeah. You could take different approaches with Matt Murdock, I think. We've seen it
I think part of it is like when you have a mask on too. Like you're not always seeing his face necessarily, whereas like Punisher and Jessica Jones are always right in your face, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It is kind of a weird thing, but it is like I can't really picture anyone else as that character right now. I can see it down the line and without like me getting offended by it, but he was so perfect. Like obviously there's a lot to like playing just even a blind character, right? Like the way he does that so naturally, and the way he can still display like so much emotion on his face it's fantastic. And then obviously he just has so many dynamics with other characters. Between like just the villains, like he has the like I guess Jessica Jones and Kilgrave have that back and forth as well a lot, but him between Kingpin, even when like Punisher is kind of a villain to him, like always such a like close relationship he has with those characters, and it's something different that we don't really
Bullseye.
Yeah, we don't really see, like I guess you do get it in like Luke Cage with like his brother and stuff, but it never has that same impact. Like you feel like you feel like Daredevil's closer to Kingpin than Luke Cage
they did it in different ways, but Luke Cage is supposed to be kind of like a mob show, so it's a lot of the meeting I've been talking. Where Daredevil, it always felt like lots of times when they'd meet up with those characters like a head-on collision. And for me, I remember when I always loved him, like what I was saying, but for me, I fell in love with him when he was doing Defenders, and for some reason, I really like that season. We'll get into it. I think I like it more than most, but there's just something that everyone still, even Kristen Witter, who was having some good stuff, he just felt like he was leading the team, and it was about Matt Murdock, but for some reason not, and I don't mean like Daredevil leading the team, I mean like acting-wise, it just felt like Kristen Ritter, she's great as Jessica Jones, she's great as those quips, but she didn't have any emotional stuff going on that season. Yeah. It just felt like he was
same character.
Yeah, it just felt like for me he was above everybody, and for me he jumped forward being, he is Daredevil. He's leading this kind of, he's our down, even Cap, sort of in this world, not in the sense of he came first, just in the sense of he just feels above them all as far as the quality. If we look at the leads other than Punisher, to me, I do, and even then, I obviously have Jones ranked a lot lower than Dillon, but for me, it just, he kind of went past that, and he was somebody where, and here's the other thing I could say, and this might sound as an insult, that I feel the quality of Charlie Cox acting other than John Bernthal, I feel like I could put him in the MCU and he matches, where some of these other leads, some of these other people feel that they haven't reached that level, whether it's their maturing acting or the writing they're getting. Somehow Charlie Cox, the way he carried himself, season 1 he's doing lots of things different where he's lying. He's a very caring individual, but he has those kind of stick tendencies where he can be cold when he's Daredevil, and it's not black and white, but just like these times when Claire's telling you don't need to do this, you don't need to beat people up with your bare hands, and and the dynamic of he wants to be with Karen that we talked about already, but then you have Elektra. He's a very, very he's, as Shrek would say, he's like an onion. He has tons of layers, and he's a guy trying to do good, but he is kind of has a devil on his shoulder.
I think you look at it too, like the character of like Danny Rand, the character of Luke Cage, of Jessica Jones, like whether or not they're in the trenches like doing their work, or if they're just hanging out with their friends in the show, like they're the same kind of character. Whereas Daredevil has a lot more dynamic,
so much to juggle.
Like we get tons of scenes of him just in the courtroom laying down the law, so to speak.
Yeah.
And he's like so fantastic in those scenes. But then as you mentioned, that's so different than when he's sneaking around a complex, trying to sneak in and take out some bad guys. But then that's so different from when he's like directly interacting with your Kingpins, your Punishers. So even that is dynamic. But then there's also, those layers of like those conversations he has with Claire, the stuff where Elektra just totally changes him. And it's not like all these things are fragmented. Like they're all just cohesive to make this big puzzle that's just beautiful when you look at it.
And that's why it makes sense in season 3 when I was not for the idea in the previews, but when he does kind of quit being Daredevil for a little bit, it makes sense because this guy's just worn down. And even though you have...
the scenes with the pastor guy, like the father.
Yeah,
like those are really, really... I guess they're really like they cut to the core of the character, and it's fun to get those scenes, and it's like in a way that fits the character really well and isn't cheesy, but is really important to give you even more depth for him.
And even season 3, the stuff with his mom worked for me as well. And that's the thing, even though he ended up fighting superpowered people, but it always felt like he had some of the most obstacles where even if you look at Frank Castle, he is hiding it sometimes, but really he's just out there. He's literally sometimes running on the streets with a gun, shooting people. He's trying to keep a secret identity. He's trying to keep the people close to him safe. He's trying to save other people. He's trying to be Daredevil. He's trying to have his own life. He's trying to take down Kingpin. There's just always so much going on, and I think it does help that show was always the highest quality. It did always deliver.
That's the thing, right? The reason it's such high quality is because all the other moving characters in those shows like all bounce off of him, right? And he really ties it all together, whereas you can't really say the same for Luke Cage, whereas you talked about like who are our favorite characters. Well, they're kind of just doing their own thing within that season. And then Iron Fist, like my favorite character is Ward, right? And he's not really directly tied to any characters. He's just doing his thing.
I think that's for every show. You look at Jones with Tristan, even with Punisher, McConaughey many times will be off for her own for a little while. McConaughey, is it?
Mahoney, do you mean, or Madani?
Madani, yeah. She'll be off on her own for a while, like with Billy's girlfriend talking about something, right?
Oh, so fuck Krista. I'm not. God damn it.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like everyone was always tied to him, and just even the drama of when he wouldn't be showing up to court and Foggy and Karen were getting mad at him, and it was just great. And that's one of my saddest things ever. That I would have loved to seen him and Tom Holland. I wanted a movie.
Costume's great.
Oh yeah, costume's great. I wanted a movie so bad of someone's framed Tom Holland and we need a lawyer, and and even then I feel Christian Ritter had the best quips, but Charlie Cox just had this dry humor, especially when he's making like blind jokes all the time. He could just sell it so well where they were comedic, but he wasn't coming off as a comedy act. Where Jessica Jones, she does that well, but they're very over. Like they're supposed to be comedy, they're supposed to be laughing, but his just had a great dry humor.
I guess my one last note on him is some of these characters. I mean, all these main characters at least get like flashbacks and stuff to their backstory, and some of it, like as we talked, like Trish, I think that was really well done. It wasn't always like the pacing sometimes cut back, like Luke Cage in particular for me. Some of those scenes really didn't cut it for me, or like Iron Fist, like felt kind of cheesy. But his scenes, like going back into his backstory, I know that's not inherently like Charlie Cox. Sometimes it was the younger actor or whatever, but really helped to build up that character in ways that I don't think ever brought the pacing down. Like that show is just fantastic. So
that's our top 10 characters. So let's move on to villains now.
Let's do it.
Villains, I would say I'd had a tough time. I don't have any honorable mentions because
there's only I guess there's probably around 20 if you looked at every single character.
It was just we had some.
We also didn't count Punisher as a villain because
or I didn't count Elektra either.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, so the thing is, this is overall it's on my list. I think this show and these shows created at least two of some of the greatest, and at that time like great MCU villains. I think you know who I'm talking about, but there's also just lots of trash.
Yeah, realistically, I could have made a top 6 and been happy with it.
Yeah,
like my bottom 3 they're good, but if I didn't have them specifically numbered, I could live.
I think the villains for these shows started a lot higher and then got a lot worse as the shows went on, unfortunately. So
my one honorable mention I'll say is Nobu. The reason I put him there is because I just haven't watched that show in a long time. I remember liking him, thinking he's cool, but I just can't remember much about him. So
fair enough.
That's it.
Yeah, I didn't have an honorable mention for Salinger or Sigourney Weaver or Jessica's mom. I know she's not gonna be top 10, but I just one last time. Jessica's mom was one of the. I'd maybe say the worst, next to Joy, my least favorite character.
Because she was bad, but like also just like cringy and just like brought the whole season down.
And the other thing, because I don't know if she's in your top 10.
It made the show cheesy. Like,
I don't know if she's in your top 10, but what a waste for Sigourney Weaver, in my opinion. You just have this fantastic actress.
She is in my top 10.
She is?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. For me, I remember we were getting that Defenders hype, and the announcer was just like, "Oh, it's great," and I feel they really mishandled that character. So I know you might have. Her.
I don't blame you at all, but that's what I mean. Where I had the top 6, and the rest are like, they're on there, but.
I'll go first. My number 10, Gao. I just put her in there. She's lots of fun. She had some fun moments. Especially Iron Fist, she had some good conversations with Danny Rand, but I don't have much to say on her. She's a higher class Turk, which was always nice to see her. Mm-hmm. I think eventually, after a while, she kind of overstayed her welcome, but they kind of had to write her off and defend her, so I understood why. But I liked her, and she just made the top 10.
I kind of had a split between her and Davos for top 10, actually. Maybe Davos should be higher, but honestly, I just don't. I remember not liking a lot of his stuff, so I'm sure he had a lot of good scenes, but I can't say I remember them. So I'll go with Madame Gao for my top 10 as well.
Yeah.
She was just like that perfect, like she fit like that classic archetype, like the older, like I guess the wise Asian woman with like powers. I don't know. She was very weird.
Her and Kingpin had a strange dynamic as well.
But she also was just around a lot, and I like that as well, because this happens a lot in superhero stuff where you have a villain who's there for one movie or there for one season, then they're gone, they die or in prison, you never see him again. But Gao popped up a few times, like where she popped up in Iron Fist, Defenders, and Daredevil, obviously. So it was just, she was a fun character to have around, and while she was never like a standout character, she was fun.
Yeah. Number 9 for me, Typhoid Mary. Not a super deep character, but I really like what she did. Her kind of stalking of Danny, the multiple personalities. She had some good action stuff. So that's honestly why she's in there. I don't remember specifics of her, which doesn't say great stuff about it, but I remember really enjoying anytime she was on screen and the unpredictability of her. So Typhoid Mary.
Number 9 for me was Alexandra, Sigourney Weaver's character.
Put her in the top 10, eh?
Yeah, I did put her. Like I said, my top 6 is what I care about. The rest are just I had to fill up the numbers. I don't know. She's definitely was a letdown. Don't get me wrong. I was very disappointed with that character because she could have been so much more. But I think Sigourney is so good, and I think the thing that was kind of let down for it was we just got so much build up to the hand from not just Daredevil but also Iron Fist, which kind of added to like the diversity of it like being existent in that world. So the fact that she was kind of the head of it after all was just a little weird. Like it never really felt warranted, but I remember there was some really good scenes. The one I remember in particular is I can't remember who she's talking about. There's like I remember there's like a record going on, and it's like I think there's like the record starts like skipping at one point, like, and it really just has like this eerie tone to it, like that scene. So I can remember that, and I think Sigourney Weaver is just great and like such a badass actress in general. So I think even though the character lacked in writing sometimes, she did great. And I mean, to be fair, like a lot of Defenders, I think a lot of the problems with it could have been solved if they had 13 episodes, and obviously you would have had to subsequently bump the budget up to make that happen. But I think that could have really brought that character out more and given her more of a backstory. But overall, I don't know. She was better than like a Salinger. She was better than like a Pilgrim, better than a Jessica Jones mom for me. So she ended up on my top 10.
Number 8 for me is Mariah Stokes. She was just a different type of character. I enjoyed her. I think I put her in there because she did get some flashy scenes like her killing Conmouth, and they just did, I'll talk about him later, but just some great wild stuff with her and Shade. So that was really unpredictable. You look at where she was in season 1, she's just a simple politician who, the ultimate example of power corrupting and just getting worse and worse and worse, and even to the point that her and Shades were together and maybe potentially turning on each other. I really like that actress. I've been a big fan of her since Desperate Housewives. So I liked her. She was just a fun, unique character. Not one of my all-time favorites, and she did get some flashy scenes, but there's not like one particular scene where I was like fantastic. It was just like a bunch of stuff, and I just really like the Shades dynamic. It was some fun, weird stuff they did there. They're just super sexual all the time.
Yeah, it was unexpected for sure.
Yeah,
I remember that took us both off guard. Yeah, my number 8 is going to be Typhoid Mary, actually. I'm going back to her. I think Alice Eve did a great job with that character. She was... It was just fun to see that dynamic of her going from like this really sweet, innocent girl to just like this like essentially assassin, right? And it was really fun, the back and forth, and I really liked how it fucked with Danny so much. And she was just like a solidly badass character that had layers to her, and it was really fun to unpack her story. And I think maybe she could have been higher if, and don't get me wrong, I didn't want Iron Fist season 2 to be 13 episodes, but if it had been, I'm sure they would have dived a lot deeper into her character, and maybe she would have been, up there with the likes of my top 6, you could say. But I think for what she was in that season, like she was a really strong villain for me. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Number 7 for me is Billy. Specifically from season 1. If you want to count it, then if you want to count Jigsaw in season 2, that's fine. I'm in my mind separating them because he has dementia, or he has he is not dementia. What is it? Amnesia. In season 2, he's Jigsaw. He's not Billy anymore. If you want to count that, fine. I'm not counting that. It's just Billy. I thought they did a good job of. It's a classic. It's a trope, but they did a classic of best friend secretly turning on his other best friend. He was not in charge, but he had a hand in his family dying. He was a bad guy the whole time. I like that build-up, but when it started, Billy was a nice, charismatic guy, happy to see Frank, how can I help, to slowly being revealed how bad he is, and then Madonna, he's using her as well, and then at the end, it's just like he kills Madonna, his partner, so cold-blooded. You get that brutal fight scene at the end where he just smashes his face, and and it's a good dynamic of him talking about how he didn't want to do it, but your family didn't mean as much as my freedom or money, whatever it was, which I'm a little fuzzy. I need to watch that season again, but I remember it was a different dynamic too, because most villains weren't someone's best friend at the time. I can't justify anything that happened in season 2, because season 2 was a major letdown, and if I really had to take that in, he didn't deserve. If there was one other character, he might have got the bump, but the reason he's at number 7 is just because I really liked Billy in season 1.
Yeah.
Jigsaw was, especially someone that really likes Jigsaw from the comics, huge letdown. One of the most disappointing nosedives in these series. Maybe the most.
Does he typically pop up as a Punisher character or Daredevil
Jigsaw,
villain?
yeah, he's mostly Punisher, yeah.
Like in Punisher comics?
They've changed. He doesn't have this best friend story. They adapted that, but he is a mobster, and he calls him Jigsaw. He's all known for his pretty face and good looks, and then Frank messes him up. Yep. So I took that in. I think, excited.
Yeah, for me, season 2 just brought him down enough that I couldn't put him on my list. Like,
you're not wrong.
Really getting rubbed the wrong way by a lot of it, and then also just the character of Krista, his girlfriend, was so incredibly unnecessary and such character just lacking any sort of logical motive of any type. Such a confusing character, and inherently she was tied to him. So
and their weird pain sex scenes and hurting each other,
ripping on his back.
and touching each other's stab wounds. It was just, it was so cringy. Yeah. And then what happened was, remember, he got shot, and his last scene, which is so funny because it's how Frank treated him, the way I thought about him, but he's in wherever Frank was hiding, he's I'm here, and then Frank just shot him and walked away. That was me to the writers of I don't care about this character. And that's exactly it. Him and Frank never really got a big moment again. It was, I can't blame you for not having him in there.
He was over the top and just ugh.
Yeah.
So
such good potential too. They set him up.
Yeah, exactly. Season 1 was not bad at all.
Yeah. Who's your 7?
Yeah, I'm on a number 7 now. My number 7 is Bushmaster.
Going
back to Luke Cage. He's a character that honestly didn't really get a whole lot of depth like some other villains. Didn't get the backstory, or maybe he did and I just can't remember. But I just remember really liking. He was just a really fun, colorful character on screen. I love his fucking his suits that he wore were just so badass. Yeah, Mariah Stokes. His voice is just iconic, and he was a badass. Just fighting. Generally, he was very
took on Luke Cage by himself.
Yeah, exactly. A very effective antagonist in that sense, in a physical way. Whereas season 1 lacked that because I just fucking hated Luke Cage's brother so much. So since that was the one character that could contest Luke Cage, it kind of takes away from the main character, really, because who is he up against? A character that I don't really want to see on screen. Whereas that was different with Bushmaster, and I think even the first episode or 2 of him, I was eh.
Me
but
too.
He really grew on me as the season went on, and he ended up being quite a fun villain to have along for the ride, along with all the other weird shit that was going on in that season. So.
And it sucks because he started to turn good at the end. And I really, once again, Luke Cage season 0 would have loved to seen that.
Yeah, yeah, he was good.
Number 6 for me is Cottonmouth. The only reason he is not in the top 5 is just the screen time.
Yeah.
But man, Mahershala Ali, who is a phenomenal actor, 2-time Academy Award winner. This show was lucky they got him
Green
before.
Book, fantastic. Go watch that movie with him.
He's
so good.
They got him before he won all those awards. So it's like they got so lucky this just happened. For Moonlight.
Moonlight, yeah.
So he was just great. He was such a smooth talker. He had such a presence anytime he was on screen. Just so cool. And then even near the end when they started to break down the way that his dad treated him and how he didn't really, like, he wanted to become a criminal, but he was kind of forced into life where Mariah was. It looked like it was the reverse of he was the powerful one pressing down on her, but it kind of turned that way. And they had a great relationship. And again, I wish there would have been a way to bring in Diamondback and have that threesome and then kill him off, because the second when Cottonmouth died, it took a big plunge, and that's the problem. Did. It was, especially we talked about Luke Cage. Luke Cage got injured.
In like episode 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Maybe even earlier.
I think it was 5. It was midpoint.
I want to say 5. Yeah.
It was tough because then also you had we talked about those episodes of Luke Cage just on the mend, and you just had Diamondback running game, and it sucked. So yeah, it shows how good of an actor he was, because he was. And it felt so unresolved. It felt like, honestly, they took the approach of the big conflict end up being with his sister because they had some past trauma from their childhood that they didn't work out. But it felt like him and Luke Cage were going to have a big showdown, and that never happened because they killed him off. So I get it. They did it for the shock value, and it worked because at that point we had never seen that in the show. But in the long run, I wish it didn't happen.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
My number 6 is going to be Shades.
Shades,
who started out as Cottonmouth's kind of lackey, if you will. Like he started out as kind of just like this guy who was always wearing shades. Was kind of like, what's this guy doing over here in the background? And he started out as like a very, very minor character, but and really, I think he stayed that way for most of season 1. But season 2 is really what brought this character to life. Yeah. Like obviously, as you mentioned earlier with Mariah Stokes, like just that relationship between those two was so weird, but like so good at the same time.
Yeah.
It was like bad reality TV or something. Like I was just so addicted to it. And he was like a real badass, but he also had this layer of like not really being a true villain. Like I almost, when I was making these lists, I just wrote down like all the eligible characters so that I could make it easier for myself. And I was like, should Shades be into the characters category or the villains? Like I feel like he's kind of one that goes on both. Maybe I'm not remembering it correctly or something, but I feel like he was also a good guy in some ways. And even though he was very shady, he I don't know, he had some dynamics to him. So he was a really fun character, and I think helped a lot in Luke Cage season 2 to I guess keep it like going from the first season, but also I wasn't really a big fan of Mariah. Like spoiler, she's not on my list.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for him, then I think that season really could have dragged. He added a lot of energy to
Agreed.
it. So
top 5 here. Harold Meacham. Loved him. I think the only reason he's lower is because I think there were times where he was a really cheesy, just generic comic book actor or comic book character. But I think the actor is what elevated it. I don't think he had great writing, but he had a very much, we're big Storm and Norman Osborn fans here, and he had a very similar kind of Spider-Man 1-esque
and Boromir fans as well.
Exactly. So he kind of hits our demographic, but it's kind of tied to Ward Meacham. But yeah, and he didn't get the greatest send-off. Like I said, near the end, he just started to become... I love the stuff with Joy and Ward, and when he was playing this manipulative, deceptive type of father figure. But then near the end, he did just, when he came back as a zombie, eventually started turning into more just, I'm a full-on villain. But go back to that review, because I'm a big fan of him. I need to watch that season again to remember how big a fan of him. But I just remember that season... I did like Ward, but the biggest thing I had to shout out was Meacham, and I really, really liked him and his plan as far as he was faked his own death and this and that. So he was an interesting villain. So yeah, top 5 for me.
Yep. My number 5 is going to be Cottonmouth. Going back to him, I feel like you're taking all these ones right before me, so you kind of get all the heat.
Ooh.
But pretty much everything you said, and I just want to reiterate, after his death in that show, it just nosedived, right? How interested I was. He added such a fun energy to it, because Shades really only came to life in season 2, so the rest of season 1 really just dragged on without him, and I miss him big time. He was such a fun, dynamic character, and just unfortunately died a little too soon.
What's your number 4? You go. I don't want to take the heat,
Well, you just stole his Harold Meacham. He's my number 4.
You took my number 4, so it's gonna
once
be
again. It's like obviously I love Ward so much, and that's why I love this character so much. Like the dynamic between them was so fucking weird, but so much fun. The other scene I want to shout out is when he comes back to life, and he's just like this zombie, like covered in sludge, just like walking through the city as he goes back to Rand Tower or wherever he goes. It's so funny. Like people are just looking at him. He just like walks through sprinklers or just like walk through a fucking basketball game. Like, oh man, he was such a fun, like super duper slimy character, and how like shitty he was to Joy. Oh my god,
she didn't even know it.
Yeah,
too.
and it was so addictive. I love that character. He was a lot of fun, and it was kind of cool that he like kind of had ties to the hand in a way too.
Yeah, he was trained by him and everything. So yeah, my number 4 was Shades. Kind of everything Dylan said. Just a really unique character. You never knew where he was gonna be. He was just such a snake. But even then, at the end, he ends up turning on Mariah and giving her to the cops and everything. He had a code, and he actually really loved Mariah. But at the end of the day, if it was his own ass or anyone else's, he was gonna save him. Whether it was getting a better deal in prison, this or that. I was a big fan of Shades. I'm a big fan of that actor Theo. Also, I want to see him do more. I'm a big fan of Sons of Anarchy. So, he was just if you had a deck of cards, he was the Joker. You never knew what he was gonna be. If it was whatever card game like Go Fish where you'd change to whatever it was, or War. That's what him. He could be a 1 or he could be a full-on king. You never knew it was going to be with him. And the dynamic was great. Who's your number 3?
My number 3, I think we're
going to have the next same 3.
Yeah, I think we are as well. Say it on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bullseye. Yeah, Bullseye's the one. Yeah. Fucking love this character. Started out as kind of just like an agent on the side who was like maybe a little bit like finicky or something, but then he just like as he turns and gets like more and more insane or losing control of himself, seeing him drop into insanity and kind of be pushed there as well.
Kingpin's wedding.
Yeah, like oh my god. It was just so much fun watching him, but also just like his like you don't really see there isn't really a ton of like powered bad guys in the show, and he's not really, he's kind of like a Hawkeye, he's just like throwing stuff. But it made for really fun scenes that
Great
like could have been really cheesy and were cheesy in a particular Daredevil movie, but was just like so much fun. Bullseye. Was so much fun in this show, and the actor was so good at like depicting all those layers of just an incredibly broken character who felt just like super lost. I loved him.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. He was just, it was so funny because they kind of set up that he had therapy and worked on it, and he was just this unhinged madness just waiting to be unleashed, and Kingpin just took him and twisted him and ruined his life. And just like I said, that wedding scene when he shows up with the girl, I forget the girl's name he really liked, but he was obsessed with her. And just that dynamic of he was stalking her, but then he took her back to be like, oh, I wasn't, I have problems, and then Kingpin killed her and made it look like he left her. But when he showed up to the wedding with her like in the passenger seat like a frozen body, he was up in the wedding singer like, oh, I got a recommendation, I want to say a few things. And it's so funny because the first episode too, I thought, oh, he could end up being really generic because he's just like a FBI good bad guy, right? But man, what a ride. And him and Kingpin had such a great relationship. From he looked at Kingpin as this father-like figure to just despising him to the point where he ended up wanting to kill Kingpin more than Daredevil. You had like the fake Daredevil switcheroo.
Yeah, those were really fun.
Yeah, that fight scene, the very first fight scene they had in the office.
Even like just like pre-season, like seeing like who the fuck is that?
In the trailers. Hey Karen, I'm Daredevil, and like, and just that when he does go to kill Karen, and just that fight scene of Matt's trying to figure out, because us as comic fans, we know this Bullseye is really good, but he's just throwing stuff, and Matt is pulled off guard. Like he's getting hit with like pencils and shit. Like, and that was where the budget actually, like whatever they had, they made it work. But he was just throwing random stuff at him, so he was lots of fun. And another disappointment we'll never see, because it sounds like the season ended with him having the logo in his eyes, and they were gonna give him the costume, the whole bang. Like I wanted more of that character, you know. So such a shame, but. Number two,
I went with Kilgrave.
I did as well. This was tough for me. I think we probably know who number 1 is, but I think number 1 got the slight edge because he got to be in it more. Because I remember me and Liam used to debate all the time when you had just season 1. We'll just say it's Kingpin because I'm going to compare them a lot. Yeah. Season 1 Kingpin versus season 1 Kilgrave. It's tough because
it really is. Yeah.
The only reason I went with Kingpin over Kilgrave was just because Kingpin at the end of the day I felt had a bit more heart and I could connect with him, where Kilgrave They do some episodes where Jessica tries to, make him better, but it always felt like no matter what, Kilgrave was gonna be a monster. His parents experimented on him, so it kind of was, by nature nurture sort of deal. But
he was
more just flat out evil.
Yeah, and we got like so much to dive into like his backstory and what made him so fucked up as well. And then obviously like the way he bounced off Jessica, but then there's so many things to it where like even just his costume was like, I love that
color
suit.
scheme.
And then like his powers are super super unique. Like there's been in like an insane amount of comic book movies in the last few years, and we haven't seen anyone that had quite powers like that. And it was just like
simple,
it
but
would
really effective.
Sometimes it would be something like using Luke Cage as just like a human tank for like to destroy a building, but sometimes he would just like fuck with people and get someone to stand in front of a fence forever, and like he would just do that because he was a psychopath and he didn't really care. And like David Tennant,
he's a bully.
He was such just a good psychotic character, and like his powers are really fun. The way he like introduces like all of Jessica Jones' backstory like through that character, it's like those two, like him and Kingpin really set a precedent. And I think that's why we were really let down with a lot of these villains, like in later seasons, like a Diamondback.
Well, and especially we talked about many times, but Jones just could never recover. They could never get to that point of
like
having
they hit
a
gold like immediately, and so like even for the other shows, like just trying to live up to that was hard. But like it just shows like right off the bat, they just nailed it with those villains so effectively. And I don't know why that is exactly. I think Kilgrave just had a lot of room for creativity, and they just nailed it. Like they did it so well.
Yeah, and that to me would bleed into my number one, because that's why for me I think Kingpin gets that, because we got to see him evolve with Kingpin. Yeah, it was, or with Kilgrave, maybe you couldn't have taken him anywhere else, but I think if they made a good enough villain with him, they could have found a way. Who knows? Because the other seasons were disappointing, so maybe he would have went downhill. And even then,
I think eventually you'd have too much of like his type of powers.
Yeah,
true. It's kind of like the same thing.
And even then, when they brought him back in season 2, it wasn't the greatest episode. It was fun to see him, but they didn't use him the greatest way. I always wanted to be. I don't know if anyone remember this episode, but there was an episode where the ice truck killer came back in Dexter's mind. I really liked how they used him there, and they kind of dropped the ball there with Kilgrave.
I think that's like even at the very end of season 3, how they kind of call back to him, and I didn't really like it because it felt a little forced, but it also felt like, oh, you remember this great villain that we did?
Yeah.
Do you guys remember when we fucking nailed it with that 10 out of 10 villain?
They tricked me because they got me to watch season 1 because I'm like, I want to watch Kilgrave again. It's so good.
But like that just shows how much that show associated like the color purple with something, and that is a very strong feeling that they did there. So they nailed it there.
And then Kingpin, just fantastic, especially someone as myself that's read comics. You've seen the animated show, you've seen the video game. For the most part, pretty basic character.
Yeah, he's been done in different ways, but
Spider-Verse.
Yeah, exactly. Spider-Verse, the fucking block. But he can be like a more kind of bland kind of character.
Oh, yeah.
So they really dove into him a lot here and
took a full-on different approach. No one had ever done anything like this. They made him a man-child.
Yeah, the acting is just unreal. Obviously, I shouted out Vanessa, my honorable mentions, but like the dynamic between him and just like wanting this woman more than anything, and like the white painting, like there's just so many iconic moments with him. Like, but he also, more than any other villain, except for maybe you could say like Punisher, if you consider him a villain, just like how scary he was, right? Like obviously that car door scene is iconic, but like there's a lot of scenes where he just fucking destroys someone in like such a terrifying way that you are terrified. Like he's the only one who could go toe to toe with Daredevil. I mean, other characters kind of got there, I guess, but he didn't need powers to do it. He was really big, but it's not like he's as big as he is in the comics, 95%
of muscle.
Right?
Remember in the animated?
Like, in the animated show, he's like literally looks like a tank. In this, he's like he's just a big dude, but like he's just so strong.
Well, and he'd be so composed, but he could snap in a second. I remember that when he kills, I can't remember his full-on name, but he becomes his guy who's in charge of his money, and he becomes like the Al in Marvel. But at one point, he's just talking to him because he knows he's gonna kill him, but he's just like, you hurt me, but you hurt Vanessa, and then he gets so angry. But he was composed right before that, just a completely different person. They took him so different routes, and even when they broke him out in season 3, they did something different as far as making him have this like almost mayor run and trying to reform criminal. And even then,
the slow rise to power, even though he was like pretty much confined to one room for a while.
And season 1, he started by he thought he was doing good for the city. He realized he didn't. He just wanted power.
Mm-hmm.
And then even season 2, I touched upon earlier, his scenes with Punisher in the jail are great. Just that fight that they have.
Yeah.
He's such a big guy, but he knows he can't beat Punisher, so Punisher's handcuffed, and he just has to beat him, and he's just like, I'm letting you out so you can just take out all my competition. That's why I hate we never got to see that, because it made such sense, and he was such a... Kilgrave was such a powerful character, but it's because he was just powerful. His powers were at a huge amount of level. With this guy, he's doing things like letting Frank Castle, who could bite him in the ass in the end, but he knew this was such a strategic move to put this guy out in the wild to take out his competition, and he was constantly doing that with Bullseye, but then he would bite himself in the ass with Bullseye. That was the downfall, twisting this guy to make him the ultimate weapon. Once Bullseye found he did that, turned on him, and it was so great. And he just wanted to be a Vanessa, and this is out of all the ones I would understand different ones, but I never understood why he didn't get any like a award recognition for this and like Emmys, because he was
iconic for
sure.
Yeah,
and he doesn't feel like Vincent D'Onofrio either. John Bernthal feels a little like John Bernthal. Charlie Cox. Vincent D'Onofrio, if you've seen him in other stuff, he does not look like, he did not feel like the Kingpin.
Yeah,
he felt like a different character.
I think something to mention though is like his just voice, or his voice is so perfect.
Yeah.
He plays like the he's like the overseer voiceover in Dishonored. It's just like this voice who is like the pretty much the leader, and you just hear like over the intercom throughout the city, you just hear his voice booming, and it's just I fucking love that game so much more now. Just hearing like Kingpin just talking over the radio, he's so good at that like authoritative role, I guess, or just like commanding power, just like through the intonation of his speech, just like the little details. He's so good.
Ranking the seasons now.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think this will be a bit quicker.
Yeah,
you can go first, but I think we have the last one. So there's 13 seasons. There's 13 seasons we're ranking. The top 10, we'll rank them all. Last one.
Jessica Jones, season 2.
Easily. Just a huge fall from grace from season 2. It is one that I think I'm considering skipping if I ever rewatch these shows.
It's just really bad on its own it's just, honestly, it's the mom, it's the villain. Like, she brings it down so much. But then, it's also, like you said, the perspective, like, just the drop-off from Kilgrave, just as a villain, but also just like that show in general went so far downhill.
And I still think
I'm glad that the show recovered into season 3.
Yeah,
I mean, it never reached season 1 heights, but like that was by far the most slog, because most of these we blasted through in a weekend to try to get a cast out there as early for you fans as we possibly could. That one was hard. That one was the hardest for sure.
I think that just killed everyone's hype on Jessica Jones, the show. Because I even remember when season 1 dropped, it was the same thing like Kilgrave. It was debate what was better, Daredevil season 1 or Jessica Jones. And I think Daredevil season 2, it's had some detractors, but definitely has a lot more positive. And season 2 is like, oh, here we go, and just such a dive. And you just had stuff. You had Malcolm and Trish together, which was nothing. You had Hogarth doing Hogarth stuff as usual.
Hogarthing it up.
Yeah, and and it's tough because Jessica's mom as a villain could have been cheesy. It was, and it was really lame. But the stuff that made sense to me was, okay, you don't have Kilgrave, but they ended as far as Jessica Jones wants to find what happened to her. That still could have been interesting stuff, but they botched that completely too. And easily last for me.
I think sometimes it's like just a thing in general, like, oh, what are we going to do with this sequel? It's like, oh, we'll just bring the parents into it. That's always like a classic family ties. But it shows that like you shouldn't always do that. Like that's not going to inherently make it interesting. Sometimes it's just the easy way out. So 12 and 11 for me are ones that ever since I watched them both for the first time have been like so closely tied that it's one of those things. Like any day you ask me, I might switch the order. For today, my number 12 is Luke Cage season 1.
Wow. Okay.
Reason for that is pretty much what we mentioned earlier. In that, like, the first 5 episodes, whatever it is, with Cottonmouth, like those are pretty good episodes. Like he's really fun. But after that, there's like not really much. And as I mentioned even earlier, like season 1 in general, but Luke Cage in general, I didn't love that character. I just found him kind of bland. Yeah. A lot of the time, season 1 in particular, he got much better after that. But that season, like just being super lame for like the second half of it really, really takes it down for me. And even though it's like I would say technically better than what my number 11 is, it's just like how much it fell off like just within one season really brought it down to me.
Number 12 for me is Iron Fist season 1. Other than the Meachums, there's not much there. The action was very disappointing. Finn Jones as Danny Rand, who I don't hate as much as everyone else. I don't even say I hate him. I think he was the weakest of our heroes. I felt like he could have grown into the role, but I also feel it was writing because they made Danny Rand a pretty... you couldn't cheer for him, He was an idiot too, just like he was just not smart, too naive in my opinion to be the Iron Fist. They didn't give us enough backstory, so yeah, that was a very disappointing season. I still liked it, I still enjoyed it, but that's easily for me that these two are easy picks.
That's my number 11 is Iron Fist season 1. It's, I mean, character wise, like, I mean, if we're looking like strictly comparing like this to Luke Cage, because as I just mentioned, like those two have always been so close to me. The season ones, like this one, I really like Cottonmouth, but I like Harold more. So that's like fair better. Enough. And then like whoever my favorite character in Luke Cage was, I guess, is Luke Cage himself. Like, who do I like more than that? Ward, even. I'd put him above.
Yeah,
so
fair.
For those two characters alone, bring it up for me that it's above there, even though like there's some dodgy acting, there's some weird pacing stuff, and then just the fight scenes in general, really poorly choreographed, especially for Iron Fist, who's like a martial artist. Like, that really stood out to all of us, like how weird those fight scenes were. So for me, because of, honestly, Ward and Harold, it's above Luke Cage season 1. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have Luke Cage season 2 in the year.
Ooh.
Yeah, because
interesting.
I remember enjoying it. I like characters. I just don't remember much about it. And I feel like even though with Jessica Jones season 2 being much worse, I still remember, it was so worse because her mom. And then I still remember like Trish and Malcolm. I still remember Hogarth dealing with that girl who was like stealing her money and she made them kill themselves. Like, I remember things. Luke Cage season 2, I remember Bushmaster wanted to kill him, and it ended up with Luke Cage becoming the mobster. And I remember Shades of Mariah doing stuff. I still enjoyed it, and I'll talk more about when I get to Luke Cage season 1. But Luke Cage season 1 at least had a big theme that tackled. It did drop off quite a bit, but this to me was just like an enjoyable action movie that you kind of watch, have a good time, but then forget about right away. And that was kind of Luke Cage season 2 for me.
Fair enough. I think we've deviated already on this one, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Jessica Jones season 3 as my number 10 is what we're on. This one for me, like, I think this one is mostly like perspective. If we were in like just a timeless dimension, and I was watching all these shows just like on their own, and there was no outside world, like I think Jessica Jones would be higher than a couple other ones. But for me, it's like the fact that that was like the end. This is like the end of this universe, and I know it's like, obviously it's not like a send off for Daredevil or Iron Fist, like it's not supposed to be, and like there's no reason to put it on that show to be that, but just the fact that like I had no hype for this show. Like when they were all getting canceled like months and months ago, this show was canceled as it was being filmed. So just like my heart wasn't in it anymore. And even though I liked the season generally, and I think it was fantastic for Trish and Jessica as well, I think it was great for both of them. I just wasn't as interested. I wasn't as hyped. So once again, even though technically it's probably better than some other seasons, for me I was just less interested, less excited, and that's why it's number 10, I think.
Yeah, 13, 12, 11.
I do have them numbered here, so that was number 10, yeah.
Number 10. So yeah, my number 9, Jessica Jones season 3. I would say just go check out our review to get my full thoughts. My pros were the Trish stuff and the Trish and Jones dynamic. And I also didn't feel like it was a slog to get through. It had good pacing. There was some good stuff in there.
Yeah, I actually think it was the best paced, even from season 1. Season 1 really dragged at some point.
Yeah, it did. So, and yeah, there's some fun flipping episodes, different perspectives. So yeah, that's my number 9.
I guess I'm right behind you again. Luke Cage season 2 is my number 9. Pretty much for all the reasons you mentioned. Like, I really like Shades and Madani, and and Luke Cage as well. I liked him a lot more in that season. So those three really... I just said Madani. Madani's not in that season at all. I'm fucking crazy. What I meant to say is Shades and Luke Cage and Misty. Yeah, Misty's the character I was looking for. Those are still really fun characters. And even though you make a good point, like, I guess I don't have a ton of great memories from it necessarily, but I do remember having fun watching like Bushmaster and his stuff. And I didn't really care much for Jigsaw. In fact, I didn't like him at all. But there were still a lot of other good character stuff going on. Jigsaw. Oh my god, I'm mixing up all these shows. Fuck. Who is I guess
it was
Bushmaster
Mariah's
like
and then Mariah. Yeah.
My god,
that's what I mean. It's a very forgettable season. Season
it really
2,
is.
Though.
Maybe I should bump it down.
They forget about Claire.
Yeah,
she's gone.
Yeah. Well, Misty's great, right?
Yeah, but
she's in that show, right?
She's dealing with her arm being lost.
Yeah, I don't know. It was fine. It was good. It was good enough.
Next for me at number 8, I got Iron Fist Season 2. I thought it was a big improvement from Season 1. It was, it was shorter. That was well needed. But at the same time, it wasn't anything groundbreaking. It was just more great Ward stuff. Finn Jones was better. It was a lot of call. And Davos started good, and I liked where he was going. Yeah,
we haven't really talked about him at all.
And he's not someone I don't think had a you can see where he was kind of like the Punisher route. I was actually liking a lot where they were going with him as far as being we're taking out criminals, we're killing them, and then to me it just kind of tapered off. I don't even remember it being a big plunge. It just obviously didn't stick with me good enough. It has been a while, but still it didn't stick with me good enough. So Iron Fist Season 2 at 8.
Yeah, me too actually. And I think. I don't know. I think it was a great decision for them to cut that show down to 8 episodes.
100%.
Helped, even though, as we mentioned, like maybe that hurt some characters. Like if they had more time, they could have been more interesting. But I think a lot of these seasons needed to be, or should have been, could have been shorter. 8 episodes is fine. I love Ward, so it was really fun to see him. I really like Typhoid Mary. She was a good villain, and I think Finn Jones was a lot better this time rolled around. Yeah. And I don't know if I mentioned this on this cast, but I wasn't really a big fan of Colleen in season 1. I just found her a little one note, but I think she got a lot better in Defenders and then season 2 as well. Mm-hmm. So overall, I actually quite liked this season. I think it was a massive incline from the season before it, and 100%. The pacing definitely helped with that for sure.
That's what happens when you get 10 episodes, cut off like almost 3 hours.
The fat, yeah.
Next for me at, where were we at? 7 now?
Number 7.
Lucky number 7. Punisher Season 2.
Me too.
It was great to have more John Bernthal. You brought out Amy, who I did forget, but I really enjoyed that character when it could have been lackluster. I even love the pilot of this episode with him trying to be...
that bartender?
Yeah. I can't remember what his name... I think he's calling himself Phil.
Oh, yeah, he's like on the construction site?
Yeah, and he was... Well, no, there's... Isn't there 2? Because that's when he's big and bearded, right? Yeah.
Is that what you're not what you're talking about?
I'm kind of talking about that because he does lose it, but then... Wait, or was... No, that was season 1.
With the beard?
Yeah. Because what happens is he quits at the beginning of season 1. He stops being Punisher.
Yeah. Those shows were like very close together in time frame relative to the other ones. So
my biggest complaint for both seasons is every season starts with Frank being, I'm not going to do this, and then he has to become the Punisher again. And then how did season 2 end? He's on the Punisher
season 2
now.
Starts with that bartender.
Yeah, because he's trying to live a normal life.
And
I really
like Amy, and then okay.
I really like that because it's classic Punisher, classic kind of like Wolverine, big hero as far as trying to live a nice life, but somehow he gets brought back into the action. Loved all the Punisher stuff. Madonna was great. Billy really takes it down, and I didn't mind him, but near the end, I was done with John Pilgrim. I love the back and forth they had with Punisher. Like, their fights in the end, it's just brutal when they're beating each other in that parking lot of that trailer park. But John Pilgrim and his family is being framed, and his wife's dying, and it was just... and it sucks because I really like that actor too that played John Pilgrim. So it just it was a very wishy-washy season stuff I really enjoyed and stuff that was just, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I know. Pretty much what you said. Like Punisher, I mean, John Bernthal is always fantastic. Amy was really fun. Then I really liked Madonna. But yeah, the villains in this season really brought it down. I disliked Pilgrim a lot more than you did, I think. And Jigsaw was fucking, oh god, that character I just have so many bad memories of. So like the fact that we don't have like a really strong villain or a villain that I connected to really brought the season down for me, making it, not in the top 5, even though Bernthal is like just hot fire throughout this whole thing.
Remember that one episode of John Pilgrim after he got beat up, he was just like, he had that prostitute and was doing a bunch of drugs and...
I really don't, and I'm okay with that. I did not like that guy.
Let's see. So we're at 6 here now.
I thought we were on 5. I could be wrong.
No, we're definitely not at 5.
Yeah, we're on 6. You're right. You're 100% right.
But
we're on 6. Number 6.
Maybe. I think we've messed up because I think I have an extra one. But
no. Here. Look at this. Okay, 13, Jones. 12, Luke Cage. 11, Iron Fist. Jones again, Luke Cage, Iron Fist. Yeah, we're on 6.
Okay, I'll believe you. Mm-hmm. I think I messed up then. But is Luke Cage season 1? We talked about...
Oh, yeah, you had that one a lot higher than me.
Yeah. The reason is because, it takes a big dive with Luke Cage being hurt and dying back. But I remember, and you go back on the review as well, is the first 6 episodes, 6 or 5 with Cottonmouth are great. That dynamic, that mob-like show. I'm a big mobster criminal fan, but also that they just the movies, not in real life.
Yeah.
But they really, really, and it took me off guard. They really dealt with race, and they had this whole scene. I remember, I think it was episode 2, where I'm not going to say the word, but some character calls Luke Cage the N-word, and he's like, "Why are you going to call me that?" And then he just gives him this whole speech about how he's a black man and how prideful he is of that and everything like that. And I felt they were really tackling great themes with Cottonmouth and with power and then with race. And then the last half of the season is just an action, "Oh, you're my brother," like cheesy stuff. But I remember that first half being the first 5 to 6 episodes, whatever it was, felt like this was on par with Daredevil and Jones. I was like really liking. I couldn't wait. It had a different style, the music, the way it was shot.
Yeah, definitely.
Pops getting killed off.
The music was really good. Yeah.
Pops getting killed off. At one episode, it ended with Cottonmouth just literally taking a RPG to Pops' thing with Luke Cage in there and blew him up. I remember I'm really enjoying the show. I was liking Luke Cage, and then it just took a big dive. But those first half was just so strong. That's why, because for the rest of me, all the rest of the season before had enjoyable stuff, enjoyable action, but none of them at any point did I think were on par with some of the best of Netflix. For a time, I thought Luke Cage was going to be. It took a dive, but the first half is why it got up there, because I thought they really took a big dive with race. And also, this was in the time where obviously Black Panther hadn't happened. I was very surprised of Marvel letting a show. We had Daredevil, which was brutal. We had Jessica Jones, which was like really sexy. I was still caught off guard that a Disney produced thing was really getting into racism issues, and they were using the hood as an example of, obviously there's lots of things that correlate in our life, and how, people have talked about, many crimes with black people with hoods, and, people say, "Oh, he was dressed like a criminal." It's like, this dude's just wearing a hood, and he took that and took it back and made it a symbol of hope. So there's and just like the community, like, "Oh, Luke Cage," like there's something really...
They really brought a lot of life to Harlem in that show.
Yeah, there's something really cool about that show early on. I don't think it ever got it back. It had moments of it throughout, but yes, that's why it got up there for me.
Those are really good points, and I think maybe it's just been a while, and that's why I had it a lot lower. But number 6 for me is going to be the Big D, Mr. Defender. This show didn't quite make it in the top 5. Obviously, it was only 8 episodes because of budget and not because there wasn't enough interesting stuff to tackle. Really, I think if it had been given more budget, given 13 episodes, I really think it could have been something great. But unfortunately, there was just some low budget stuff that really kind of took me out of it, and just it's a lot. That's a lot to introduce. You're introducing the villain of this organization you've been hinting at or building up, and not even just hinting at, for seasons in other shows. We have all sorts of mashups of other characters. But then you also, some of it goes by the wayside, where, some characters, it's where are they? Maybe they should have been in here. Or, what happened to Claire? Why is Claire not in this at all? That kind of sucks. So I think what holds it up and still puts it in my top 6 is just because it is so much fun to see them all join together. And I think after, at that point, we had only seen Iron Fist season 1, and Finn Jones wasn't so great in there, but being with the rest of the team, I think he got a lot better in that season. So it was just a lot of fun to see them all together. And unfortunately, there was just some things that weren't so perfect about it, but I'm still glad it happened. And it's something I should actually rewatch, because I think if any of them to rewatch, I think it should be Defenders, especially now that it's all done. But it was a fun show, and I think it just didn't live up to the hype for me. When we first saw that teaser poster, with the newspaper or whatever it was, we were just super stoked. And the fact that it didn't quite hold up for me, I think, is what brings it down out of the top 5.
Yeah, so I still think this is my 7, because after this I have 5 shows.
I have 5 more.
I think I'm on 6 as well. I think I screwed up there. Maybe I didn't. But anyway, so 6 is my...
Because I went first.
Yeah, but we both had Iron Fist. That was or we both have Jessica Jones.
Right, and then I started with Luke Cage. Yeah, okay. We're back on track.
Yeah, we're back on track. Yeah, Defenders as well. Just didn't crack top 5 because there's ones that are a bit more higher quality. But for me, it is just them as a team. And it's not just they're together, so it's cool. They had good charisma. They had good back and forth
together. It was fun to see there's that iconic scene of them just all having like dinner together at that restaurant. And, like the back and forth is so
good. And it's much different than Avengers. Avengers very quick, only 2.5-hour movies. This is a slower pace.
Yeah, you don't get those scenes where they're just humanizing.
Yeah, and obviously the first episode was just an introduction, but I still liked it. And we got to see the heroes for hire the first time, and we got to see Matt and Jessica, which I was a big shipper of. It never got to happen, but that hit my, my shipper bones. But I wanted them to get. I wanted them to get them on so bad because they're just so very similar characters, but so different. Yeah, and that was like the return of Matt as Daredevil. Stick was in there great. You got to see more of Elektra and Matt. Elektra and Matt. And then also you got one really great. I agree with Dylan, the budget was hampering. Mm-hmm. A big con for me was how they handled Sigourney Weaver. I liked the Elektra ended up being the villain, but it was kind of a letdown. But then we got one great hallway scene of them fighting a bunch of people together, doing some combo moves. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I think that's the one that has just an enjoyability factor. I don't think it ever reaches the heights emotionally as these next 5, but it was just, I've watched that one quite a bit because it's just, you can jump into it. It's really good. Like there's just one point where Matt like kicks Iron Fist's ass, and it's so cool just because like you're seeing these characters, but it shows that Daredevil, who's just this man, like he can just whip Danny Rand. Yeah. It's so great. So
yeah, that scene when they're like, I forget where they are.
They're in a warehouse or something.
They're going like through some building, and like they're not really on the same team at that point, but they're like, I think Luke Cage just like busts through a wall.
That's the hallway scene, and they all end up together. It's so good. So rewatch it. It's just a fun season. That's what I really like. So
we're in the top 5 now.
Yeah.
We're nearing the finish line.
Let's see if we deviate here because we have the same last 5.
I think we might, but my number 5 is going to be Punisher season 1.
I have that as well.
Okay, cool. This, I mean, like Punisher was just introduced so well in Daredevil, and then like just kind of spun off into his own thing. It was kind of like a surprise. I feel like
we were all hoping it was like,
and then it just like ran. They were like, it comes out like next week or some shit. I forget what it was, but it was kind of
it got delayed because there was like a massive shooting in the States. So it was they were gonna do this Ghost Drop season, and then that happened, so they delayed it. So that's why there was like they didn't. So that's why for a while
it was hinted at in Defenders, or like that was the
that was the one of the posts.
That was the first time we knew about it, right?
No, they announced. I think it was just something of like Punisher's coming soon,
Yeah. Either way, as we've mentioned, like obviously both of us had number 2 as Punisher himself, and I think that season stands up so strongly because it didn't really have. It didn't have like your Jigsaw or your Pilgrim, which brought the season down. It just had really like, I would say Madani didn't bring the season down, but she was a little more generic or not as interesting as she was in season 2. But you get like Micro, which I loved that dynamic between them. And it was just so much fun to see that character get his backstory. I guess Karen's in that season a decent amount as well, right? But yeah, just
one episode actually.
Just one episode?
It feels like because she gets kidnapped in a bombing.
Right. It's been a while since I've watched it, but yeah, just seeing Bernthal like really put on those boots and dive deep into that character was so much fun. And there wasn't really anything that like brought it down. Like, yes, none of the villains were up there in our top 10s, but it's not like the villain.
I had Billy.
You had Billy, yeah. But like, I mean, even none of the there's nothing that was like bad in that show. Like there was some stuff that was just fine, but there was just a lot of great moments.
I think the only thing that held it back for me is, if I recall, because I don't think I gave it like a 10. I think I gave it 9.5. I think it did suffer similar as my number 4 pick. As near the end, it felt this could have been lower episodes because it felt like it was a lot of we got to get to this point, but then there's a lot of obstacles thrown away. If you don't remember, which I liked the character, and I really liked how they handled PTSD. That was a big theme of the show.
Right.
And it's a big character study of Frank and other soldiers. But his friend there, I always forget.
Curtis?
Yeah, Curtis. Yeah. He had that group, and remember that one guy that started to become a bomber, and that guy kidnapped Karen. When we took that detour, it kind of felt like, and I didn't mind some of it, but it did feel like a little bit of, we got to fill 13 episodes. So if I remember, I'd have to go back and watch it because I haven't watched it again since then. But I think I remember just being, it felt they were delaying the inevitable with getting Micro back with his family, this and that. And I think it's also because I was not a fan of even the beginning of, especially as season 2 did it, we always had to be, he's like Hogarth. Oh, he has to become Punisher again. It's like, we know he's going to do it. Let's just get there, you know. So that's the only cons I could think. But I would say everything that you said was on par. So.
Okay, let's see if we match up again. My number 4 is going to be Daredevil season 3.
Whoa, no, not at all. So no, that's crazy. So take the floor.
Yeah, I mean, this one for me, once again, like as I've said this whole cast, I've only seen all these shows once, so maybe I'm giving too much love for season 1 and 2, but it's just been so long that it's hard for me to like judge super accurately. But like this is nothing to sneeze at. I loved like this top 5 are all amazing, like 10 out of 10 shows. If you ask me, it's kind of like the 6 through 13. There's some great stuff in there. There's also some not so great stuff. But yeah, this top 5 is just, I love all these shows a lot. Agreed. And Daredevil season 3, as we mentioned, like Bullseye is such a fun new character that could have been cheesy and almost seemed like it at first, but ended up being just like a really, really in-depth character, getting more Kingpin and Vanessa and just like such a brutal, savage character that really just, I guess dominated him, showed or displayed that he is like the number one villain of these shows, and maybe even in the whole MCU, honestly, if you look at it. I mean, Thanos has a pretty strong case, but Kingpin's up there too. But yeah, Daredevil is just, it's all the stuff we mentioned, right? It's like all these characters we ranked at the top of our list for a reason, and everything came together in this show. I've always loved Karen. I think she was, I don't know if she was best in this season. It's hard for me to remember, but I liked everything she was doing here. I don't have a great memory of what Foggy was doing. I feel like he's always, like, I think I liked him a little bit more in the earlier seasons instead of 3, but 3 had a lot more other new stuff going on that I would, I think, rather see, but he took a little bit of a back seat, and then also not seeing Claire at all, I think, maybe brings it down a bit. Or is she in there? I can't recall.
No, I don't think she is, no.
But, yeah, perfect show.
My number 4 is Jessica Jones, season 1. So, yeah, great things. I've talked about this a lot. We talked about Kilgrave, talked about Jessica Jones. I'm rewatching it right now. Good setup of Luke Cage is her best love interest. It starts off, Kilgrave gets in there pretty early, but there's a lot of her just taking on cases, being a PI, which I like. I feel like the show's kind of lost that eventually. It was always around the main thing. It did sync up to Kilgrave, but still, for me, it was the only cons I have. I shouted this out a long time ago, is there's a part where they get Kilgrave, they trick him, they kidnap him, and then he escapes. And then for 2 episodes, they're just looking for him again. They meet up with them. It's my same complaint as Punisher, where it just felt like either you need to cut them or you should have spread it out a bit more. Because I remember it was just this high intensity of we're going, and then it kind of slows down. Just because and they're not bad episodes. It's just it was just on this high, and then we took a little bit of a pivot down, and we went back up. So yeah, Jessica Jones season 1 for me.
Yeah, that's gonna be my number 3. Yeah, I think for me, like the pacing in this season wasn't great. As I mentioned, like season 3 for me, much lower on the list. But I actually think it had better pacing than this season. Generally, even though Kilgrave was fantastic, I think Malcolm I didn't really care for as much in this season. He got better later on, but everything else, like, Kilgrave's fantastic. Jessica getting introduced to that character. The dynamic between them is so good, as you mentioned, the Luke Cage stuff. And then I think that was something that I was kind of not really let down by in season 3 or even season 2 of the show, was just like the PI stuff, right? Because that is like a really fun element of the show. But I found by season 3, I was just kind of bored of it, or like I had enough. But I really, really liked it in season 1. It was like, it's the same thing in Daredevil, right? Where it's like they do spend a good amount of time on like just doing the lawyer stuff, and that could be kind of boring or by the numbers, but they keep it interesting, and it helps to give the characters some like layers and makes them feel like a real character, because they're doing stuff like during the day and then different stuff at night and all this. So yeah, fantastic show, amazing villain. Don't know if we'll ever quite get a villain like that again. It's a pretty unique one, and I'd love to see him play another villain. Wink, wink. No, check out another cast of ours in potentially a week or 2.
Let's see. So now we're at our top 3 right now.
Yeah, what's your number 3?
Daredevil season 1, just great. I talked about this all the time. It's a show that started off and need to be great. It had these great vibes of almost kind of earlier Dexter's, as well as far as this dark superhero, the guy hiding a secret. You had the religious aspect in there. Kingpin was great. I was not the biggest fan of Foggy and Karen, but I thought they were in there enough. Ben Urich, and they were fine. They're just not some of my favorite characters. Ben Urich, I mentioned him, was a fan of that. And then they just introduced these fight scenes, and you got that first hallway scene that really set precedent. It became a staple for this show, and it carried over to Defenders.
And iconic.
Yeah, and I thought Charlie Cox did a really good job, and that was the season I referred to earlier. It's just you had not a classic, because I think shows and movies can do it really poorly, but you had these 2 guys that were trying to fix the city in different ways. Obviously, when we see Kingpin again later, it's for different motivations, but this one was he thought he was trying to fix the city, and clearly he was the bad guy. But great show. Just phenomenal. So
Yeah, season 1 is my number 2. We've said it all. I don't need to say much more. The only thing I'll say is that like this was started it all, right? And it's the same thing with your Iron Man. Like that needs to have a strong impact if you're going to be interested to check out the later stuff. And this show just got me super, super interested. I was telling everyone to watch this show. You got to watch it. And it hooked me enough to like feel a level of investment that carried through. And here I am like watching all of these seasons and everything since then. So yeah, it was a fantastic show. And I know I'm not going to rewatch all these seasons in my life, but I can guarantee that I'll rewatch all the Daredevil stuff.
Before you die, you'll rewatch Daredevil, yeah.
Yeah, and I never did a cast for that one, so
no, maybe
I'm sure
one day.
That'll be a special ghost drop. We'll ghost drop it like Punisher. You don't know when it's going to come.
We'll hint at it. We'll keep delaying it. Yeah,
it'll be completely irrelevant to everything else going on. Yeah, or maybe if the show comes back.
I did think about it, too. I never reviewed Jessica Jones Season 1 either.
Yeah, I wasn't on Daredevil Season 2, though, was I?
No, you weren't. No, you were still catching up.
And then... what was after that? It was Iron Fist or Luke Cage?
It was Luke Cage.
So I was on that one.
Yeah,
so,
okay. From that point on, yeah. So you never know.
So we got to go back and do those first 2 seasons.
Yeah. I'm down to one day. We'll be missing them.
All right, which season do you have next?
Daredevil Season 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's a surprise. So this season, I honestly think that the pacing of Season 1 is a bit better. But I just love the way it's divided. I think the shows need to do this more, that half the season was Daredevil v. Punisher, and the other half was Daredevil v. The Hand v. Elektra. She was kind of somewhere in the middle, but it felt really refreshing. It felt like 2 seasons in one. It felt like 2... because what are they, 13? So I'll round down. It felt like 2 6-episode seasons. You just watched them back to back. They flew into each other good because it was dealing with Matt Murdock trying to deal with the city, deal with the characters that are uprising. You had some good background on the Hand when I was still interested in the Hand. They kind of beat them to death eventually after that, but it was a good introduction. And them killing Elektra off and then him taking Nobu's life was like a big moment. And it was great season.
We're on the last.
That's you're number 1, baby.
Yeah, there's only one season left. Yeah. I'm sure you've deduced by now. For me, it's going to be Daredevil season 2.
Yeah.
Once again, it's been a while since I've seen these, but for me, it's just like Daredevil. He gets the costume. We're getting more amazing Matt Murdock action. Fucking love that costume so much. Good. I hope we get that in Ultimate Alliance. Give that as a costume, please. But then it's Punisher, it's Elektra. Those 3 are so incredibly good at their characters that for me it was like it's been a while since I've seen those shows, but I remember after watching season 2 like, damn, that was even better than season 1. How did they do that?
I can't say you're wrong. That's the thing. All these Daredevil seasons are just interchangeable they all tackle different things and they're just all so good.
Oh my god. It's a shame that it's gone, but I'm glad we got at least 3 bomb seasons that were all just fantastic.
And that's why I was surprised with my number 1 being not in your top 3. I thought it was going to
I mean, you've rewatched these shows, so I would say you probably have a more accurate list.
I have, I guess, with Daredevil, at least it wasn't an ending, but it felt at least if it ended there, it was fine because they ended up locking Kingpin.
The only thing is we don't get that Elektra, like...
Yeah, well, I guess we just assume she died, right? She died.
Yeah.
That's in this show, if it never continues, that building... collapsed.
Killed her.
It killed her.
Daredevil, but her.
I love the way they were going to they brought back Kingpin because I was happy they kept him alive because we talked about Kilgrave, but there's always a chance they could have screwed him up. I think they delivered on that well. Vanessa coming back for a little bit was great.
Especially at the point we had some not so great shows, and it's like different teams making these shows and stuff, but it had been a while, like a very long time actually, since the first 2 seasons. And I have a little bias, and even then they were just inspired by the Born Again story. They didn't really do it. They took a lot of deviations, but the whole thing of Kingpin rising to power and Matt Murdock's mother, that was pretty much all you had in there. But you had the character hit some low points. He found out his mother's been lying to him his whole life. He literally at one point tries to go kill himself because a guy says, "I'll shoot you," and he says, "Do it." It's Matt at his darkest. He wanted to die with Elektra. He didn't, so he's just trying to find a way in life. He has
Foggy and Karen that don't know how to deal with Matt. They thought he was dead for months. You have Kingpin and him going head-to-head. You have Kingpin and Bullseye and as a team then going head-to-head. You have Daredevil and Bullseye going head-to-head. All these dynamics leading to maybe my favorite Daredevil fight scene. I know there's hallway scenes. First of all, 2 of them. You get that prison break hallway fight scene, which goes on for a long extent of time. So good. But then maybe my favorite...
that is a great scene.
Yeah, maybe my favorite fight scene of all time is the triple threat between Daredevil, Bullseye, and Kingpin. They're just all trying to take each other out, and it's just madness. There's no team up. It's just Daredevil and Kingpin have been fighting, and then Bullseye will just like whip a dish at them, and it's just like, and one will get incapacitated, then they're fighting, and then it's just this whole moment where you look at Matt, it's been built upon for the past 2 seasons of not wanting to kill, trying to not take a life, and then the whole season he's talking, he has to kill Fist. This is the only way. Foggy says, let me help. Foggy tries something, it doesn't work, so he goes, you know what, I have to kill him, and then he chooses not to. He stays as Matt Murdock, and it's just this great scene of he's just yelling at him, and of course yelling was a big thing in season 3, but he goes to kill him, and he just doesn't, he just yells at him, and I can't remember what happens, is I think they found some way to that they could put Vanessa away for life, and he just says, like, if you don't stay in prison, she's going to go to prison for the rest of her life, and it doesn't matter if you even think about coming out or doing anything, I have you. And he just, like, that last line was like, I beat you. And it was just like, it was a good culmination of their story and Matt's story. I think you could have gone more. Obviously, they teased Bullseye at the end of the season, so they weren't planning on ending. But, it was just great. Daredevil is one of my favorite comic characters of all time. I love Matt Murdock. He is just, it's just like this. He just is such a gripping character, and I think the TV show did that as what is he struggling with in multiple ways.
It's the one like show out of all these that like doesn't really have any problems for me. Like I agree. They are like you can even look at. I love Jessica Jones season 1 is my number 3, but it has like pacing problems. There's a couple characters that I didn't really care for. Like I don't really have any problems with Daredevil, and someday we've done a top 10 movies, we've done a top 10 games, characters. Someday we'll do top 10 TV shows, I'm sure, and I think Daredevil is in my top 10 for sure.
Just
whereas the other ones, none of the other ones will be. Maybe Punisher will get an honorable mention, I don't know. But Daredevil for sure is somewhere in there. It's like outside of the realm of comic book stuff, superhero stuff. It is a fantastically written show with all sorts of fantastic acting. The fight scenes, obviously, like that we didn't really talk about, but the hallway fight scene, that first one is like just iconic. Like was like if you can just say the hallway fight scene and just like is such a vivid image in your mind, like just that long pan shot. Yeah, amazing show.
And this was a time where you think about MCU now, I feel like they're in their prime, but this was a time where MCU, had Ant-Man, Age of Ultron, Thor, Dark World. You're like, oh, I'm enjoying these movies, but with Daredevil coming out around the time, you're like, man, Marvel Netflix is just killing it. Obviously, it went wishy-washy, and I would never make that case now, but it was just Daredevil. Daredevil is just as high quality, some of the best stuff the MCU put out, so...
I can't wait to play as him now in Ultimate Alliance. I'm just getting hyped. I just want to fuck some people up with batons.
Oh yeah, I love
and your wall. Apparently.
Yeah, of course. It's the hall. We'll go in the hallway and get ready. So check out that stream. Thank you very much for tuning this episode.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Dylan, thank you for jumping in all these episodes with me.
Dude, it was so much fun to binge watch all these shows, and we had some people join us on
Shout
the other
Kyle
stuff.
And Emily, they helped us.
They put in their
Taylor
hard
for
work,
Iron Fist. Just Iron Fist.
But it was a lot of fun to watch these shows with you. So.
We hope you enjoyed this. If you have your rankings, let us know whether you're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube
list.
Comments. We'd love to read them. So thank you very much for tuning in. Hopefully this is not the end. Hopefully maybe we hear somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
But until then, we're closing the chapter on Marvel Netflix and on to the next thing, So thank you very much for tuning in. It won't be boring.
It's Wiedersehen.
I think I'm just going to do that. It's a pretty good one.
Yeah. And if it does mean until next time, that's just perfect.
No, exactly.